Chapter 2030. Although Chun Peng had said Duan Lingtian was slandering him, his eyes were filled with doubt. However, in the depths of his eyes, there was a hint of shock and disbelief. His gaze had betrayed him. I remember now. Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out in the Fire Remuneration Palace. It was a Holy Land disciple who seemed to have thought of something and cried out loudly. Most of the people present on the scene could not help but look at the Saint Land disciple. The Saint Land disciple was slightly nervous when he saw everyone's attention. However, he said in a timely manner, "Do all of you remember Duan Lingtian was punished by the enforcement hall after he killed Yuan Hong and his younger brother, Yuan Kuang? At that time, we thought the enforcement hall had given Duan Lingtian a chance because he had a powerful background. However, it seems like the enforcement hall had already known that Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root at that time." The Holy Land's disciple immediately recounted everything that had just occurred to him, without missing a single detail. The Fire Remuneration Palace fell into a dead silence again. "There's such a thing." Dong Lin's eyes widened, and his expression turned grave. Since he had just returned a few days ago, he was unaware that Duan Lingtian had been punished by the enforcement hall. Otherwise, he would not have looked for trouble with Duan Lingtian so impulsively. How could someone who was punished by the enforcement hall be an ordinary person? As an elder of the law enforcement hall, he was naturally well aware of this. Although Chun Peng was his friend, Chun Peng was only his follower. However, in his eyes, Chun Peng was just a follower from the beginning. Due to his age, he left the ranks of the true disciples and became a bronze flame elder. From that time onward, Chun Peng no longer followed him around. If he had known earlier that Duan Lingtian was a person who had been blackmailed by the enforcement hall, he would not have impulsively come looking for trouble with Duan Lingtian, even if Chun Peng was his brother, let alone Chun Peng, who was only his follower in the past. Furthermore, he was abusing his power to cause trouble for the Duan Lingtian. If this matter was not handled properly, even if he was an elder of the law enforcement hall, and the only son of one of the deputy hall masters of the law enforcement hall, it would be difficult for him to escape a heavy punishment. Now that you mention it, I remember it too. It seems that there is indeed such a thing. It seems like the enforcement hall found out that Duan Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root, that Duan Lingtian is able to enjoy the benefits of Zoroastrianism. It seems like the rumor isn't true. Duan Lingtian doesn't have a yellow innate spiritual root, but a blue innate spiritual root. At the same time, realization dawned on the group of Saint Land disciples in the Fire Remuneration Palace. As it turned out, the enforcement hall had long known that Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. Dong Lin, the elder of the law enforcement hall, was the only one who was kept in the dark. Elder Dong Lin is really unlucky. Based on Duan Lingtian's words, Elder Dong Lin must have only come out of closed-door cultivation a few days ago, or just returned from outside. Isn't it obvious? Otherwise, Elder Dong Lin wouldn't have thought that Duan Lingtian only possesses a yellow innate spiritual root. He doesn't know Duan Lingtian at all. The reason he made things difficult for Duan Lingtian today is all because of Chun Peng. He was tricked by Chun Peng. As the Saint Land's disciples discussed among themselves, many of them shifted their gazes to Chun Peng, causing him to become the center of attention for the time being. Chun Peng's face turned pale when he heard these words. What did they mean by he tricked Dong Lin? Before today, just like Dong Lin, he did not know Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. When Chun Peng saw Dong Lin looking at him coldly again, he felt like killing himself. Naturally, he knew Dong Lin would most likely ignore him after today, since Dong Lin would definitely think he was the one who tricked him. For a moment, Chun Peng felt very regretful. Why did he have to be so rash? The atmosphere in the Fire Remuneration Palace was very lively. At this moment, the group of Saint Land disciples was certain of something. Duan Lingtian indeed possessed a blue innate spiritual root. This explained why the enforcement hall would kill Duan Lingtian previously. It was because he possessed a blue innate spiritual root. Moreover, the person he killed was a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple who did not have a high innate talent and was not important to Zoroastrianism. I can't believe Duan Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root. It seems like those people who said his cultivation base would stop at the peak of the exemplary saint stage are laughable. It's indeed laughable. As long as a martial Dao genius with a blue innate spiritual root doesn't die prematurely or neglect his cultivation, he'll definitely be able to break through to the saint celestial stage. It's hard to imagine how terrifying Duan Lingtian's combat strength will be when his cultivation base breaks through to the saint celestial stage. It'll definitely be terrifying. His current cultivation base seems to be at the peak of the exemplary saint stage, right? It shouldn't be. Earlier, before he cast his assist-type divine ability to strengthen his saint energy, I sensed the aura of his saint energy was at the early quintessential saint stage. Does this mean he has already broken through to the early quintessential saint stage? In the Fire Remuneration Palace, the group of Saint Lan disciples discussed among themselves. They had also confirmed Duan Lingtian's current cultivation base was at the early quintessential saint stage. Even then, they were still amazed by Duan Lingtian's current combat strength. Although his cultivation base is at the early quintessential saint stage, his combat strength is definitely at the top of the second form of the saint celestial stage. I think so too. Just the sword technique he casts with his sword technique alone is enough for him to be ranked on the Supreme Saint ranking. I can't believe there's another prodigy among the younger generation of Zoroastrianism who's ranked on the Supreme Saint ranking so quickly. In Zoroastrianism, once a true disciple from the younger generation was ranked on the Supreme Saint ranking, it was equivalent to bringing glory to Zoroastrianism. Such a person would be widely acknowledged as a prodigy among Zoroastrianism. For example, those who were ranked in the top 7 of the true ranking, including Ganru Yen, were also known as prodigies among Zoroastrianism, because they were ranked on the Supreme Saint ranking. In Zoroastrianism, there were 7 prodigies who were known as the 7 Great Prodigies. The 7 Great Prodigies of Zoroastrianism were famous even in the upper province of the Dao martial Saint Land. Each of them was widely acknowledged as the best among the younger generation in the upper province of the Dao martial Saint Land. From today onward, there's going to be another prodigy among Zoroastrianism. In the future, there won't be only 7 prodigies among Zoroastrianism. There will be 8 of them. It won't be long before the 8 great prodigies of Zoroastrianism become famous in the Dao martial Saint Land. Many Saint Land disciples exclaimed, "Prodigy, 8 great prodigies." Upon hearing the Saint Land disciples' words, Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow. However, his expression remained calm. Ker's twin sister, Ganru Yen, is also a prodigy among Zoroastrianism? Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. Duan Lingtian still remembered. When he met Ganru Yen for the first time, he was indeed shocked by the strength Ganru Yen had displayed. Even the 5-clawed golden dragon Diju did not dare to even fart in front of her. In fact, Diju's cultivation base was already at the peak of the divine saint stage at that time. However, since his strength had already caught up to Ganru Yen to a certain extent, he was no longer as shocked as before. Soon after, Duan Lingtian shifted his gaze to Dong Lin and said indifferently, "Elder Dong Lin, shouldn't you give me an answer now that things have come to this?" As soon as Duan Lingtian looked at Dong Lin, a scene that surprised him appeared. From this moment onward, Duan Lingtian will no longer be restricted from accepting missions from true disciples in the enforcement hall. As soon as Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, Dong Lin no longer dawdled and said, "You're right." His tone was clear and straightforward. It made Duan Lingtian wonder if he was possessed by a soul. Moreover, however, Dong Lin did not finish his sentence. He looked at Duan Lingtian and bowed to Duan Lingtian in front of everyone in the Fire Remuneration Palace. "Duan Lingtian, I didn't know you possess a blue innate spiritual root, so I restricted you from accepting missions from the enforcement hall. Now that I've learned you possess a blue innate spiritual root, I have to sincerely apologize to you." Dong Lin's apology caused the Fire Remuneration Palace to fall into a dead silence. Dong Lin's actions surprised everyone. This Dong Lin is really flexible. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian was not happy at all. Instead, His expression turned grave as a hint of dread appeared in his eyes. Although Dong Lin seems to be apologizing to me, isn't he trying to redeem himself? Now that he's apologizing, he won't be punished severely even if the enforcement hall decides to pursue this matter. Duan Lingtian knew this very well. After apologizing, Dong Lin did not wait for the people in the Fire Remuneration Palace to return to their senses before he walked out of the Fire Remuneration Palace. This time, Duan Lingtian did not stop Dong Lin, since he had already achieved his goal. He could now accept the mission from the enforcement hall. This meant that Dong Lin would not be able to accept it. He might be able to meet Kerr and her daughter soon, outside the Fire Remuneration Palace. As soon as Dong Lin walked out of the Fire Remuneration Palace's entrance, his calm expression changed drastically. His eyes gleamed coldly. Endless hatred rose in his heart. Chapter 2031. After Dong Lin apologized to Duan Lingtian and left, the Fire Remuneration Palace fell silent. Dong Lin was actually forced to apologize to Duan Lingtian. Moreover, he no longer restricted Duan Lingtian from accepting the enforcement hall's missions. Duan Lingtian is too amazing, right? Although I knew Elder Dong Lin's restrictions on Duan Lingtian are useless after he revealed his blue innate spiritual root, I didn't expect Elder Dong Lin would say he's no longer restricting Duan Lingtian. Isn't he slapping his own face? It's not just slapping his own face. Didn't you see that Elder Dong Lin even took the initiative to apologize to Duan Lingtian? From today onward, among the 170 over true disciples, I'll only submit to senior brother Duan Lingtian. That's right. Even the person who's ranked first on the true ranking might not dare to be so rude to Elder Dong Lin. The group of Saint Lan disciples in the Fire Remuneration Palace finally regained their senses. An expression of shock could be seen on their faces as they sighed emotionally. Many of them even added the word senior brother when they mentioned Duan Lingtian. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, the strong were revered. Duan Lingtian's actions had perfectly illustrated the concept of a powerhouse. Many Saint Lan disciples present on the scene were convinced by him. Just as the group of Holy Land disciples was whispering to each other, a voice suddenly rang out. Trying to leave? Did I allow you to leave? Duan Lingtian's indifferent voice suddenly sounded. It immediately attracted the attention of the group of Saint Lan disciples in the Fire Remuneration Palace. The group of Saint Lan disciples saw Dong Lin leaving. After Dong Lin left, Chen Peng, who was originally following Dong Lin, had unknowingly snuck to the entrance of the Fire Remuneration Palace. It was obvious he wanted to leave. However, before he could leave, he was stopped by Duan Lingtian. History repeated itself again. Duan Lingtian, what do you want? Senior brother Dong Lin no longer restricts you from accepting missions from the Law Enforcement Hall. You must know when to stop. After being stopped by Duan Lingtian, Chen Peng's face alternated between green and white. However, in the end, he straightened his back and spoke in an overbearing manner. In his opinion, even if he was afraid of Duan Lingtian from the bottom of his heart, he couldn't lose to Duan Lingtian in terms of aura. Know when to stop. Hearing Chen Peng's words, Duan Lingtian immediately burst into laughter, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. His laughter spread throughout the entire Fire Remuneration Palace. After a while, Duan Lingtian stopped laughing. When he looked at Chen Peng again, his eyes were as cold as knives. Are you joking? Don't mess around. Sensing the murderous aura emanating from Duan Lingtian, Chen Peng's expression changed drastically. His straight back also bent down at this moment. Compared to the overbearing Chen Peng earlier, it was as though he was a completely different person. If you dare to move in the next 3 breaths, I'll make sure you suffer a fate worse than death. Duan Lingtian said coldly when Chen Peng's expression changed drastically. At the same time, he took a step forward and was only a foot away from Chen Peng. In the next instant, under everyone's watchful eyes, Duan Lingtian raised his right hand and swung it out at lightning speed. Slap! 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 As Duan Lingtian swung his right hand left and right, the crisp sound of slapping rang in the air one after another. It was as though the sound of firecrackers did not stop. Duan Lingtian's hand was too fast. In just a breath's time, Chen Peng's face was already swollen like a pig's head. Upon seeing this, the group of Saint Lan disciples present on the scene could not help but gasp. Some of them even reached out to touch their own faces. At this moment, although Duan Lingtian's hand did not land on their faces, they could imagine how much pain Chen Peng's face was in. However, even if his face was swollen like a pig's head, Chen Peng did not dare to move at all. This was because Duan Lingtian had already said, if he dared to move in the next 3 breaths, he would make sure he suffered a fate worse than death. Naturally, he did not dare to doubt Duan Lingtian's words. Therefore, even if both sides of his face were swollen and numb from being slapped by Duan Lingtian, Chen Peng did not dare to move in the next 3 breaths. However, there was a burning anger in the depths of his eyes. This was the first time in his life that he had been humiliated like this. Slap, 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 slap. The crisp sound of slapping continued. After 2 breaths, a few of Chen Peng's teeth were broken. Fresh blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. After the span of 3 breaths, Duan Lingtian finally stopped. At this moment, not only was Chen Peng's face swollen like a pig's head, but blood was also flowing out of all 7 of his orifices. If there's a next time, I'll make sure you suffer a fate worse than death. After stopping, Duan Lingtian glanced at Chen Peng coldly before he said in a low voice, "Get lost! Get lost!" As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Chen Peng was so frightened that he immediately moved aside to make way for Duan Lingtian. After Chen Peng moved aside, Duan Lingtian also stepped forward. The group of Saint Lan disciples consciously made way for him, as he walked to the counter, where he had been earlier. "Elder, can I accept the mission now?" "Yes, of course." At this moment, the Fire Remuneration Palace's elder behind the counter no longer dared to stop Duan Lingtian from accepting the assignment to serve in the enforcement hall. After he hurriedly responded, he began to process the procedures for Duan Lingtian in a fluster. Even Dong Lin, who had restricted Duan Lingtian from accepting the mission from the enforcement hall, had given in. Naturally, the Fire Remuneration Palace's elder could no longer continue to make things difficult for Duan Lingtian. In terms of strength, he might not be a match for Dong Lin. In terms of status and background, he could not compare to Dong Lin at all. If he continued to make things difficult for Duan Lingtian, he would only be asking for trouble. When Chen Peng saw Duan Lingtian ignoring him after accepting the mission, he left the Fire Remuneration Palace with a dejected expression under the watchful eyes of many Saint Lan disciples. After he left the Fire Remuneration Palace, the anger in the depths of his eyes could be seen clearly. "Duan Lingtian, Duan Lingtian, I won't let you go. I won't let you go." Chen Peng roared in his heart as the flames of hatred burned fiercely. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten that it was impossible for him to catch up to Duan Lingtian with his innate talent and strength. "Duan Lingtian, bring this certificate to the enforcement hall tomorrow, and you'll be able to complete the handover with the true disciple on duty in the enforcement hall. You'll be on duty in the enforcement hall for the next month. You'll have to stay in the enforcement hall and are not allowed to leave without permission." In the Fire Remuneration Palace, one of the Fire Remuneration Palace's elders behind the counter reminded Duan Lingtian after he had completed the procedures for him. At the same time, he passed the certificate in his hand to Duan Lingtian. "Thank you, elder." After receiving the certificate and thanking the elder, Duan Lingtian left the Fire Remuneration Palace without looking back. After Duan Lingtian left, the Fire Remuneration Palace, that had been quiet since Duan Lingtian had accepted the assignment, became lively again. The group of Saint Lan disciples could not help but show their respect for Duan Lingtian when they spoke. After Duan Lingtian left the Fire Remuneration Palace, news of what happened in the Fire Remuneration Palace spread like wildfire among the Saint Lan disciples who were present on the scene. "Duan Lingtian caused trouble again?" "I heard so. Moreover, the person he offended this time is Elder Dong Lin from the enforcement hall, who has a powerful background." "Dong Lin? Isn't that the only son of Vice Hall Master Dong from the enforcement hall?" "That's him. It seems like he didn't take the initiative to cause trouble this time. It's Elder Dong Lin from the enforcement hall, who used his yellow innate spiritual root to restrict him from accepting assignments in the enforcement hall. I heard about it as well. It's said that Duan Lingtian publicly revealed his blue innate spiritual root and slapped Elder Dong Lin in the face. However, I really didn't expect the rumors to be false. As it turns out, Duan Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root. In terms of martial Dao innate talent, he possesses a blue innate spiritual root. In terms of divine ability innate talent, he has mastered 4 high-grade divine abilities. Duan Lingtian is really heaven-defying. Soon after, most of the people in the Saint Land of Zoroastrianism learned that Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. The entire Saint Land of Zoroastrianism was shocked by this news. In fact, in the past, everyone thought Duan Lingtian's divine ability and innate talent were heaven-defying. They even thought the heavens were jealous of him and only gave him a yellow innate spiritual root. However, they finally found out the rumor that Duan Lingtian possessed a yellow innate spiritual root was just a rumor. Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. Previously, Duan Lingtian had killed Yuan Hong, the grand disciple of the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder Lian, and his younger brother, Yuan Kuang. He was spared the death penalty because he possessed a blue innate spiritual root. He was only punished to serve in the Four Symbols Sanctum's first mine for 10 years. Naturally, Duan Lingtian did not even spend a month in the Four Symbols Sanctum's first mine before he was released. This was because he was qualified to enter the Saint Land and become a Saint Land disciple at that time. The news of Duan Lingtian possessing a blue innate spiritual root quickly spread to the other Four Symbols Sanctums. It caused a commotion in the Four Symbols Sanctums. Duan Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root? How's that possible? Many of the Four Symbols Sanctum's disciples had similar reactions when they heard the news. All of them felt it was impossible. After all, the news of Duan Lingtian possessing a yellow innate spiritual root was spread from the Black Turtle Sanctum, one of the Four Symbols Sanctums. It was very true. It seems like senior brother Duan Lingtian knows how to conceal the grade of his innate spiritual root. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been tested to possess a yellow innate spiritual root. Many Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples in the Black Turtle Sanctum said. Chapter 2032. The enforcement hall was located in the mountain range, to the north of the Saint Island, in the Dao Martial Saint Land. It was rare for people to come here. The enforcement hall was divided into 3 halls. The main hall, the punishment hall, and the prison hall. Amongst them, the functions of the main hall were all-encompassing, including recording files, accepting complaints, and managing the entire law enforcement hall, etc. As its name suggested, the punishment hall was where the enforcement hall punished the Zoroastrianism elders and disciples who had violated the sect's rules. Whether it was a life sentence or a death sentence, the punishment would be carried out here. Previously, Wei He, the first direct disciple of the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Lian, had slandered the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder for abusing his power for personal gain and indirectly blaspheming the enforcement hall. Apart from that, the punishment hall had all kinds of terrifying torture tools. They were much more ridiculous than ordinary torture tools. Many of them could make one wish for death. As for the prison hall, it was where the Zoroastrianism elders and disciples, who had violated the sect's rules, were imprisoned. Those who were imprisoned were those who had committed serious crimes. However, since their crimes required the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism to make the final judgment, they were temporarily imprisoned here as well. Kerr and Duan Lingtian's daughter, Duan Siling, and Kerr's twin sister, Gan Ruyen, were imprisoned here. At this moment, a figure hurried over to the enforcement hall's main hall. Elder Dong Lin. The few enforcement hall's elders who had just walked out of the main hall took the initiative to greet him with a smile when they saw him. The person was none other than Dong Lin, who had just returned from the Fire Remuneration Palace in the central square. Before he returned, Dong Lin had gone to other places to inquire about Duan Lingtian. He had also gained a deeper understanding of what had happened to Duan Lingtian after he came to the Zoroastrianism. After learning more about Duan Ling Tian, he had rushed back to the enforcement hall. He wanted to read the records about Duan Ling Tian in the law enforcement hall. At this moment, the news of Elder Dong Lin from the enforcement hall suffering a setback in the fire remuneration palace in the central square had already spread to the enforcement hall. Of course, due to the issue of time, the news had yet to reach the main hall of the enforcement hall. Therefore, the few law enforcement hall elders who had left the main hall had yet to receive the news. As a result, they behaved very normally when facing Dong Lin. Furthermore, although Dong Lin was only a bronze flame elder of the law enforcement hall like them, his father was the vice hall master of the law enforcement hall. Thus, when they met Dong Lin, although they did not flatter him, they were still very courteous. After all, Dong Lin's father was their superior. Whoosh. However, Dong Lin ignored the greetings of the few law enforcement hall's elders. He did not slow down at all as he stepped on the ground and hurriedly entered the law enforcement hall's main hall. What's wrong with Elder Dong Lin? What's so urgent? That's right. In the past, when we greeted him, even if he didn't greet us back, he would at least look at us and nod at us. Today's situation doesn't seem right. Forget it. This spoiled brat's temper has always been unpredictable. Let's just ignore him. Based on the words of the few law enforcement hall's elders, it seemed like they did not have a good impression of Dong Lin. In fact, this was indeed the case. The reason they were polite to Dong Lin was due to his extraordinary background. Moreover, his father was their superior. Have the few of you heard? Elder Dong Lin from our enforcement hall is apologizing to a true disciple in the fire remuneration palace in the central square. After the few law enforcement hall's elders flew out for a distance, another law enforcement hall's elder came up to them and asked excitedly. This law enforcement hall's elder was also a bronze flame elder. Therefore, the few of them recognized him. What? Elder Dong Lin apologizing to a true disciple? You must be joking. With Elder Dong Lin's temper, it's fine if others don't apologize to him. But he's apologizing to someone? Moreover, he's apologizing to a true disciple? I don't believe it. When the few law enforcement hall's elders who had just left the main hall heard the words of the other law enforcement hall's elder, they looked at each other and shook their heads to express their disbelief. You have no choice but to believe this, because you'll hear about it soon enough. The law enforcement hall's elder shook his head and said, What's going on? Tell us clearly. The few law enforcement hall's elders' curiosity was piqued as they asked one after another. This is what happened. Following that, the law enforcement hall's elder, who had just arrived, told them everything he had heard. Fire Remuneration Palace, Duan Ling Tian, Dong Lin, and the mission issued by the law enforcement hall. It mainly revolved around these few points. Dong Lin actually abused his authority to prevent Duan Ling Tian from accepting the mission issued by the law enforcement hall? Isn't he afraid Lord Hall Master will blame him? That's right. Although his father is Lord Vice Hall Master, if Lord Hall Master is angry, even Lord Vice Hall Master won't be able to protect him. He's very smart. He found an excuse in time. In that case, Lord Hall Master might not blame him even if he finds out. Unfortunately, his excuse was quickly destroyed by Duan Ling Tian. He said that Duan Ling Tian only has a yellow innate spiritual root, but Duan Ling Tian directly revealed his blue innate spiritual root and slapped him in the face. No wonder his expression was so unsightly earlier. As it turns out, he was humiliated by the Fire Remuneration Palace. When the few law enforcement hall's elders recalled Dong Lin who had ignored them earlier, they began to chime in one after another. However, I really didn't expect Duan Ling Tian to not only have a heaven-defying innate talent in divine abilities, but his innate talent in martial Dao is also so high. The eighth prodigy of Zoroastrianism is so strong that he's probably ranked in the top 5 among the 8 great prodigies. That Duan Ling Tian really surprises me in every way. That's right. Ever since he came to Zoroastrianism, the things he has done have always been surprising. This time, he even slapped the face of our law enforcement hall's second-generation heir. He's really fearless. Based on this news, will he come to the law enforcement hall tomorrow? I finally have a chance to meet this prodigy, who has been very popular in Zoroastrianism recently. I'm looking forward to meeting him as well. When the law enforcement hall's elders mentioned Duan Lingtian, a hint of curiosity could be seen in their eyes. They were curious about how Duan Lingtian looked like and who he was. How dare he cause so much trouble in Zoroastrianism? In the main hall of the law enforcement hall, as soon as Dong Lin entered, he went straight to the side hall where the dossiers were kept. The dossiers were very important to the law enforcement hall. For this reason, a Silver Flame Elder would usually be on duty in the side hall, where the dossiers were kept. Elder Dong Lin. Today, the person on duty in the side hall, where the dossiers were kept, was a middle-aged Silver Flame Elder. When he saw Dong Lin rushing in, he was stunned. At the same time, a puzzled expression appeared on his face. I want to see the dossiers about the death of Saint Lan's Elder Wei He. Dong Lin said in a commanding tone after he rushed in. It was as though he had forgotten that the person on duty in the side hall was a Silver Flame Elder. As expected, the Silver Flame Elder's expression turned grave when he heard Dong Lin's tone. He said coldly, "Elder Dong Lin, I don't remember where I put the dossiers that you're looking for. You should look for them yourself." Although Dong Lin's father was the vice hall master of the law enforcement hall, he was still a Silver Flame Elder. However, he was a Silver Flame Elder after all, and he had his own dignity. Naturally, he would not allow Dong Lin, a Bronze Flame Elder, to step on his head, even if he would offend the vice hall master of the law enforcement hall. He was not willing to give up his dignity. "Elder Lin Tong, I'm sorry. I was too impatient. Please forgive me for offending you earlier." When Dong Lin heard the Silver Flame Elder's words, he finally realized the person before him was a Silver Flame Elder. Although he was displeased, he still took the initiative to apologize. What a joke! The dossiers in the side hall of the law enforcement hall were passed down through the generations of Zoroastrianism. If he were to look through them himself, he might not even be able to find the dossiers he was looking for, even if he spent 3 days and 3 nights. In order to see the dossiers as soon as possible, he apologized on the surface. However, in his heart, he hated Lin Tong, the Silver Flame Elder before him. When Lin Tong saw Dong Lin apologizing, his expression softened immediately. At the same time, he took out the dossiers about the death of Saint Lan's Elder Wei He and passed them to Dong Lin. "Elder Lin Tong, please take out the dossiers about the Duan Lingtian killing Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang from the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. I'd like to take a look." Dong Lin forced a smile on his face as he said to Lin Tong. It was apparent Lin Tong was someone who could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. When he saw how polite Dong Lin was, he immediately helped him find the dossiers he was looking for. Then Dong Lin opened 2 dossiers. From the dossiers, he saw that Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. Dong Lin's expression darkened immediately. As it turned out, the law enforcement hall had long recorded that Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. Unfortunately, he had just returned from outside, so he did not have the time to look into it. "I'm really screwed over by Chen Peng this time. I hope Lord Hall Master won't hold me responsible for this, since I took the initiative to apologize to Duan Lingtian." Dong Lin prayed inwardly when he thought of this. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of what had happened in the law enforcement hall. After he left the Fire Remuneration Palace and the Central Square, he returned to his residence. Chapter 2033. Junior Brother Lingtian. A voice suddenly resonated from outside. It instantly alerted Duan Lingtian, who was not in the mood to cultivate. He immediately left the 7 Treasures exquisite pagoda and walked out of his room. He could tell it was Lu Yun's voice. "Senior Brother Lu Yun? Is there anything you need from me?" Duan Lingtian asked with a smile as he rose into the air and arrived in front of Lu Yun. As the saying went, a person is in high spirits when there's a joyous occasion. The current Duan Lingtian gave Lu Yun a completely different feeling compared to before. It was as though he was a completely different person. His entire body exuded vitality. "Junior Brother Lingtian, I know you're going to the Fire Remuneration Palace tomorrow. However, when you're there, you must be careful of Dong Lin." Unlike Duan Lingtian, who was full of smiles, Lu Yun's expression was extremely solemn as he warned Duan Lingtian. I'm sure you already know about Dong Lin's background. You know he's the only son of one of the vice hall masters of the enforcement hall. However, I'm afraid you still don't know that the vice hall master of the enforcement hall is famous for being ruthless. Back then, his wife was accidentally injured by one of the Zhuangzi Buddhism's elders. He immediately charged into the Zhuangzi Buddhism and killed the Zhuangzi Buddhism's elder. At that time, the powerhouses from the Zhuangzi Buddhism, who besieged him, were also severely injured by him. He was also on the verge of death. At that time, if Lord Sect leader did not make a move in time, he would have died. He went to the Black Kshetra sect because he was certain his wife wouldn't be able to survive. He was prepared to die. When Lu Yun reached this point, he paused for a moment before he continued to say. Later on, he discovered his wife, who was severely injured and on the verge of death, was pregnant. His wife passed away after giving birth to Dong Lin. Since then, Dong Lin has become his new source of sustenance. It can be said that Dong Lin is the most important person in his heart in this world. If Dong Lin finds out that you have rashly humiliated him in front of everyone, I'm afraid that he will not let this matter rest. Lu Yun finished speaking in one breath. Don't tell me that he can still lay a hand on me in Zoroastrianism? Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrows and asked. He won't go so far as to attack you in the Zoroastrianism. After all, he is the vice hall leader of the law enforcement hall. Considering the kindness of the hierarch, he won't dare to act rashly. However, if the Zoroastrianism is involved, everything will be different. Lu Yun shook his head and continued. I came here today mainly to remind you that no matter how great the conflict between you and Dong Lin is, it's best that you don't think of killing him. Once you kill him, the vice hall master of the law enforcement hall will no longer have any misgivings. He could even kill you in Zoroastrianism. For the sake of his son, he'll definitely risk his life. Lu Yun warned Duan Lingtian with a solemn expression on his face. Thank you for your reminder, senior brother Lu Yun. Duan Lingtian nodded. At the same time, he was slightly fearful of Dong Lin's father, the vice hall master of the law enforcement hall. From Lu Yun's words, he could tell that Dong Lin was a ruthless person. For the sake of his wife, he would kill his way into Zhuangzi Buddhism alone. This was not something that anyone could do. Furthermore, his wife had passed away, and she had left him with a son. It was not hard to imagine. One could imagine how important his son was to him. If his son died, he would definitely go crazy. However, Duan Lingtian was only fearful. After all, he did not have the intention to kill Dong Lin for the time being. Moreover, even if he challenged Dong Lin to a death duel, Dong Lin might not even bother about it. Due to this reason, he was not worried that the vice hall master of the law enforcement hall would personally make a move on him. As for what will happen after I leave Zoroastrianism, why would I need to wait for him, or the people he sends to make a move on me after I leave Zoroastrianism? The Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Lian, won't let me go so easily. Duan Lingtian was well aware of this as well. For this reason, he was not worried that Dong Lin's father would make a move on him after he left Zoroastrianism. Junior brother Lingtian, you'll be going to the law enforcement hall tomorrow. If it's possible, try not to have any conflict with Dong Lin when you go to the law enforcement hall. Otherwise, even if Dong Lin's father doesn't personally teach you a lesson, he'll definitely instruct the Silver Flame Elder to do so. Lu Yun reminded Duan Lingtian. Once he went to the law enforcement hall, he would be in the Dong father and son's territory. For this reason, he could not help but worry about Duan Lingtian. Don't worry, I know what to do. Duan Lingtian nodded. He did not have any enmity with Dong Lin. As long as Dong Lin did not provoke him, he could not be bothered with him. After all, he did not suffer any losses today. Junior brother Lingtian, is your innate spiritual root really a blue innate spiritual root? Lu Yun sighed in relief when he saw Duan Lingtian had taken his words seriously. However, he seemed to have recalled something as he stared at Duan Lingtian. He had heard about what had happened today. Not only did he know that Duan Lingtian and Dong Lin were at odds, but he also knew that Duan Lingtian had given Dong Lin a tight slap. The slap was due to the blue innate spiritual root that Duan Lingtian had shown. Although he had heard that Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root, he still found it hard to believe. After all, the news of Duan Lingtian possessing a yellow innate spiritual root had spread far and wide. For this reason, he suddenly asked Duan Lingtian this question. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded with a smile. Then why was your innate spiritual root tested twice in the Black Turtle's sanctum, one of the 4 symbol sanctums? When Duan Lingtian heard Lu Yun's question, he realized Lu Yun was going to get to the bottom of this. He was already prepared for this. I know a secret tactic that can conceal my innate spiritual root. At that time, I was only found to possess a yellow innate spiritual root because I had cast that secret tactic. Duan Lingtian blurted out. This was the excuse he had come up with a long time ago. Apart from that, he believed most people thought the same as well. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain the huge difference in his innate spiritual root. I see. Although Lu Yun had already guessed this, it was a different feeling when he heard it from Duan Lingtian. At the same time, his heart was filled with shock. Then, does this mean the blue innate spiritual root you're displaying now might not be your true innate spiritual root, junior brother Lingtian? Lu Yun suddenly thought of this, and could not help but ask. That was right. Since Duan Lingtian could conceal his innate spiritual root as a yellow innate spiritual root, it was possible that the blue innate spiritual root he was displaying now was not his true innate spiritual root. As soon as Lu Yun finished speaking, he stared at Duan Lingtian intensely, as though he was trying to figure out something from Duan Lingtian's expression. At this moment, Duan Lingtian smiled mysteriously in a timely manner. It was his mysterious smile that confirmed Lu Yun's suspicions. Junior brother Lingtian's innate spiritual root might be an indigo innate spiritual root. The moment Lu Yun thought of this, his heartbeat quickened. It took him a long time to calm down. Naturally, the reason Duan Lingtian had a mysterious smile on his face was because he had done so intentionally. The reason he did this was to mislead Lu Yun into thinking that he was still holding back when he revealed his blue innate spiritual root. After all, his innate spiritual root could be improved through the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. As long as he devoured enough innate spiritual roots, it would only be a matter of time before his innate spiritual root transformed into an indigo or violet innate spiritual root. Under such circumstances, it was better for him to lay the groundwork first. In this way, Lu Yun would not be surprised even if he revealed a higher grade innate spiritual root in the future. Junior brother Lingtian, I've already achieved my purpose of looking for you. I won't disturb your cultivation any longer. When Lu Yun saw the mysterious smile on Duan Lingtian's face, he did not continue to ask. He bade farewell and prepared to leave. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian did not say anything. At this moment, there was no need for him to ask any further. The mysterious smile on Duan Lingtian's face had already told him everything. For this reason, Lu Yun was still in a state of shock when he left. He could not calm down even after a long time. I can't believe junior brother Lingtian not only has a heaven-defying innate talent in divine ability, but his innate talent in martial Tao is also heaven-defying. As long as he's given enough time, he'll surpass the second and first place on the true ranking. Lu Yun was very certain about this. Junior brother Lingtian is the most outstanding prodigy in Zoroastrianism. It's not an exaggeration to call him one of the 8 great prodigies. Lu Yun thought to himself. After watching Lu Yun leave, Duan Lingtian's emotions from missing Ku'er and their daughter had calmed down a lot. He also felt a certain amount of pressure from Dong Lin's father's protectiveness. After all, he would have to report to the enforcement hall tomorrow and hand over to the true disciple on duty in the enforcement hall to become the true disciple on duty in the enforcement hall for the next month. If Dong Lin's father wanted to look for trouble with him in the enforcement hall, just as Lu Yun had said, there was no need for him to do it himself. He could just ask the Silver Flame Elders to do it. The weakest Silver Flame Elder was at the 3rd form of the Saint Celestial stage, while the strongest one was at the 4th form of the Saint Celestial stage. With my current strength, I won't be able to face a Silver Flame Elder at the third form of the Saint Celestial stage. After all, I won't use the Jasper Celestial Sword unless I have the chance to kill him. Duan Lingtian knew this very well. For this reason, he had no choice but to be wary of Dong Lin's father. Forget it. My goal is to seek her and our daughter. As long as I can see them, so what if I have to suffer a little? Moreover, if he really dares to ask the Silver Flame Elder to teach me a lesson, I'll have to teach his son a lesson in full detail. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as his eyes flashed coldly. Chapter 2034. A day in the outside world was equivalent to 10 days in the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. During these 10 days, Duan Lingtian had also tried his best to calm himself down and cultivate. Although he did not make any breakthroughs in his cultivation base, he had managed to stabilize it. Give me half a month. I'll definitely be able to break through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage. Duan Lingtian, who was sitting cross-legged in the air in the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes gleamed brightly like two stars in the night sky. Naturally, the half-a-month Duan Lingtian was referring to as half a month in the outside world. It was equivalent to 5 months in the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Currently, with the help of his blue innate spiritual root and the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Duan Lingtian's cultivation speed was almost comparable to a monstrous genius with an indigo innate spiritual root. Now, it's time for me to head to the enforcement hall. The moment Duan Lingtian thought to himself, he left the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and his mansion before he flew in the direction of the Saint Island. The enforcement hall was located on the Saint Island. Duan Lingtian knew about this. Duan Lingtian continued to head north. Soon after, he arrived at the area where the enforcement hall was located. It was rare for outsiders to come to this area. You're a true disciple who's on duty in our enforcement hall, after accepting the position issued by our enforcement hall? As soon as Duan Lingtian entered the area where the enforcement hall was located, he heard a voice resonating from the sky. Then, a figure descended from the clouds and appeared in front of Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye. Duan Lingtian took a closer look and saw the person clearly. It was a middle-aged man dressed in the uniform of a Saint Lan's Bronze Flame Elder. Unlike the uniform of an ordinary Saint Lan's Bronze Flame Elder, the words Enforcement Hall were embroidered on the chest of his uniform. Based on this, one could tell he was an Enforcement Hall's elder. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded in response to the Enforcement Hall's elder's question. Do you have proof? The Law Enforcement Hall's elder who appeared in front of Duan Lingtian asked straightforwardly. Any true disciple who came to the Law Enforcement Hall to serve would have a certificate issued by the Fire Remuneration Palace in the central square. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded. Then, he took out the proof that he had obtained from the Fire Remuneration Palace yesterday and handed it to the Law Enforcement Hall's elder. The elder of the Law Enforcement Hall reached out and took it. His gaze then fell on the proof. Suddenly, as if he had seen something shocking, the pupils of the Law Enforcement Hall's elder suddenly shrank. His expression also changed at this moment. Hiss! Suddenly, the elder of the Law Enforcement Hall sucked in a breath of cold air. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, there was a hint of respect in his eyes. You're Duan Lingtian? Although he was a Saint Lan's Bronze Flame Elder and an Enforcement Hall's elder, his strength was only on par with Dong Lin. He was inferior to Wen Yan, who was ranked 9th on the true ranking. In the face of this person who could easily suppress Wen Yan and force Dong Lin, a spoiled brat, to apologize, apart from being shocked, there was only respect in his heart. Perhaps this person was much younger than him. However, it was precisely because this person was much stronger than him that he did not dare to take advantage of his seniority. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected, not the old. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded in response to the question from the Enforcement Hall's elder. You and the batch of true disciples on duty in our Law Enforcement Hall will be handed over in the main palace. I'll bring you there. When the enforcement hall's elder returned the proof to Duan Lingtian, he also took the initiative to bring Duan Lingtian to the main palace. Isn't it too troublesome? Why don't you just show me the way, elder? Duan Lingtian asked politely. Duan Lingtian had always been a person who would respect those who respected him tenfold. He was extremely courteous to the enforcement hall's elder. Although he was much stronger than the enforcement hall's elder with the Jasper Celestial Sword, he did not look down on the enforcement hall at all. It's no trouble at all. It's my honor to be able to lead the way for a prodigy like you. The enforcement hall's elder shook his head. When Duan Lingtian saw how insistent the enforcement hall's elder was, he no longer refused and followed him to the enforcement hall's main palace. How should I address you, elder? Duan Lingtian asked along the way. My name is Peng Bing. The enforcement hall's elder replied to Duan Lingtian immediately. Then he said anxiously, You don't have to address me as elder. You can just call me by my name. Elder Peng Bing, you're a Zoroastrianism elder, and I'm a disciple of Zoroastrianism. It's only right for me to address you as elder, so you don't have to think too much about it. Duan Lingtian shook his head when he saw Peng Bing's anxiousness. After coming to Zoroastrianism for so long, this was his first time seeing an elder who was as courteous to him as Peng Bing. Peng Bing seemed to be anxious when he addressed Duan Lingtian as elder. However, Duan Lingtian was unaware that Duan Lingtian's elder was a Zoroastrianism elder. Currently, in the eyes of the Zoroastrianism's bronze flame elders, Duan Lingtian was not someone to be trifled with. The bronze flame elders were not only afraid of Duan Lingtian's strength, but they were also afraid of his courage. After all, not everyone had the guts to humiliate a direct disciple of a golden flame elder in front of so many people. Moreover, not everyone had the guts to force the son of the enforcement hall's vice hall master to apologize. Among the true disciples, Duan Lingtian was not the only one who was stronger than Wen Yan and Dong Lin. However, Duan Lingtian was the only one who dared to humiliate Wen Yan and Dong Lin. For this reason, in the eyes of the Zoroastrianism's bronze flame elders, although Duan Lingtian was only a true disciple, he was an anomaly among the true disciples. He was someone they could not afford to offend. For this reason, Peng Bing was both respectful and fearful when he faced Duan Lingtian. Elder Peng Bing, can you give me a brief introduction of the enforcement hall? Duan Lingtian asked. Of course. Peng Bing nodded immediately before he began to introduce the enforcement hall to Duan Lingtian. The enforcement hall is divided into 3 halls, and each of them has their own duties. The 3 halls are the main hall, the punishment hall, and the prison hall. The main hall. With Peng Bing's introduction, Duan Lingtian gained a basic understanding of the enforcement hall. The enforcement hall was divided into 3 halls: the main hall, the punishment hall, and the prison hall. From this, he found out that Kuer and her mother were imprisoned in the prison hall. Elder Peng Bing, the prison hall is an important place in the enforcement hall. The people who usually guard there should be at least silver flame elders, right? Duan Lingtian asked. Although it seemed like he did not mean it, he actually meant it. At this moment, all he wanted to do was to find out more about the prison hall. If there were only some bronze flame elders guarding the prison hall, perhaps he would have a chance to rescue Kuer and their daughter. Naturally, it was just a thought, since even he thought it was unrealistic. There were so many silver flame elders in the enforcement hall. How could they only let a group of bronze flame elders guard the prison hall? That was the most important place in the enforcement hall. Yes, Peng Bing nodded immediately when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Usually, there are 3 silver flame elders guarding the prison hall. You'll need their permission to enter the prison hall. If anything happens in the prison hall, they'll have a communication Dao talisman with them. They'll be able to inform the hall master and the vice hall masters of the enforcement hall immediately. Peng Bing said, If that's the case, doesn't that mean the prison hall is impregnable? It's impossible for anyone to rescue the people who are imprisoned there? Duan Lingtian asked, seemingly surprised. In fact, Duan Lingtian was feeling a little gloomy at this moment. This meant that he would not be able to do anything. Before he had the ability to defeat the hall master of the enforcement hall, It was impossible for him to rescue Kerr and their daughter. Indeed. Peng Bing nodded before he continued to say, with the hall master of the enforcement hall here, unless the person who comes is a guardian of Zoroastrianism, it's impossible for anyone to rescue them from the prison hall. When Peng Bing mentioned the hall master of the enforcement hall, a hint of respect could be seen in his eyes. To every enforcement hall elder, the hall master of the enforcement hall was a supreme existence. His position in their hearts was second only to the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. Even the three great guardians of Zoroastrianism were not as important as the hall master of the enforcement hall in their eyes. Peng Bin was talking to himself, but he didn't notice it. Duan Lingtian's face had turned completely gloomy. It was only when Peng Bing instinctively looked at Duan Lingtian that the gloomy expression on Duan Lingtian's face disappeared, and he regained his composure. The main palace of the enforcement hall is right in front of us. After walking for a while, Peng Bing's voice resonated in the air. Duan Lingtian immediately looked into the distance. In the distance, a huge and long palace sat there. It looked like a divine dragon that was crawling on the ground. It gave off an invisible pressure that came from the bottom of one's heart. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of wind whistling rang in the air. When Duan Lingtian regained his senses, he immediately saw two figures flashing past him and entering the enforcement hall's main palace. Are they true disciples on duty as well? Although the two of them were very fast, Duan Lingtian could still clearly see the Saint Lan true disciples' uniform they were wearing. I have to go back to patrol as well, so I'll send you here. If we're free in the future, let's get together again. Peng Bing smiled and told Duan Lingtian that he was about to leave. Elder Peng Bing, thank you for leading the way. I, Duan Lingtian, will remember this favor. Duan Lingtian thanked Peng Bing. After Peng Bing left, he followed the two true disciples into the enforcement hall's main palace. I hope Kerr and her daughter are locked up with Gan Ruyen. In that case, I'll have a chance to meet them. Duan Lingtian prayed in his heart when he stepped into the enforcement hall's main palace. Chapter 2035. When they entered the main hall of the enforcement hall, they saw a spacious hall. There was a row of counters in three directions in the hall, and a few elders of the enforcement hall were standing behind the counters. However, most of the counters were empty at the moment. There were only 3 people standing in front of one counter. Based on their attire, it was obvious they were the Saint Lan's disciples from the Zoroastrianism. However, they were standing next to the counter, as though they were waiting for something. This person seems familiar. At the same time, one of the 2 true disciples who entered the main hall before Duan Lingtian turned around when he heard the sound of wind whistling behind him. With just a glance, he found Duan Lingtian familiar. However, he could not recall where he had seen Duan Lingtian before. When the other true disciple heard this, he turned around as well. As soon as he saw Duan Lingtian, he frowned for a moment before his brows relaxed. His eyes narrowed as well. This isn't Duan Lingtian. In the next moment, he could not help but exclaim in surprise. Duan Lingtian. Since the true disciple did not deliberately suppress his voice reverberated in the reception hall of the enforcement hall's main hall. Apart from causing his companion to perk up, his words also attracted the attention of the few elders of the enforcement hall behind the counter in the reception hall, and the 3 true disciples standing next to the counter in the distance. Duan Lingtian instantly became the center of attention in the reception hall. Duan Lingtian did not expect to be recognized as soon as he entered the hall. Faced with everyone's gaze, he smiled and nodded at them. His refined and courteous appearance caused everyone to be dumbfounded. Is he really Duan Lingtian? The 3 true disciples standing in the distance looked at each other. They could see the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. One of them even asked, I think so. I've seen his portrait before. I really didn't expect that this Duan Lingtian, who offended senior sister Wen Yan for no reason, and humiliated senior sister Wen Yan in public would actually have such a side to him. I originally thought that he was an arrogant egomaniac, but I didn't expect that he would be so polite. Provoke senior sister Wen Yan for no reason? You believe that? I heard that senior sister Wen Yan doesn't even know how she offended this Duan Lingtian. Senior sister Wen Yan must have offended Duan Lingtian in some way. And that matter, perhaps senior sister Wen Yan didn't link it to Duan Lingtian. So even senior sister Wen Yan herself doesn't know how she offended Duan Lingtian. The other two true disciples spoke one after another. In the face of Duan Lingtian's politeness, the three true disciples were not the only ones who were shocked. Even the few enforcement hall's bronze flame elders behind the counter, and the two true disciples who were closest to Duan Lingtian were shocked. Is this really Duan Lingtian? Is this really Duan Lingtian? At this moment, they were just like the three true disciples. All of them were dumbfounded. Elder, this is my proof. Disregarding everyone's shock, Duan Lingtian walked up to the counter where the three true disciples were. He took out the proof the Fire Remuneration Palace's elder gave him yesterday, and passed it to the Enforcement Hall's elder behind the counter. When the Enforcement Hall's elder saw it, he nodded. That's right. This proof was given by the Fire Remuneration Palace. Duan Lingtian, please wait at the side for a moment. When all 10 of you are here, someone will bring all of you to the other 10 true disciples. After the Enforcement Hall's elder put away the proof, he said to Duan Lingtian politely. When the three true disciples saw how Duan Lingtian was treated, they were envious. They gloated because they thought since Duan Lingtian had offended so many people, as his friend, Lu Yin would most likely be implicated as well. Put aside the fact that Duan Lingtian had offended the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Lian, when he was in the Black Turtle Sanctum of the Four Symbols Sanctums, he had also offended the true disciple, Wen Yan, and the Enforcement Hall's elder Dong Lin, after he came to the Saint Land. Both of them might not be as strong as Duan Lingtian. However, their backgrounds were terrifyingly powerful. Take Wen Yan for example. Her master was a Golden Flame Elder in Zoroastrianism. He was also the Sanctum leader of the Azure Dragon Sanctum. Dong Lin's background was even more terrifying. Dong Lin's father was the Vice Hall Master of the Enforcement Hall that they were currently in. After offending Elder Dong Lin, he still dares to accept a mission from the Enforcement Hall, to be on duty in the Enforcement Hall. Doesn't Duan Lingtian know what he's doing is akin to sending a lamb to the tiger's den? These were the thoughts of the other 5 true disciples, and the Enforcement Hall's elders present on the scene. As time passed by, the last 3 true disciples finally arrived. When they saw Duan Lingtian, they were naturally shocked. Even if they had received news beforehand that Duan Lingtian would be on duty with them in the Enforcement Hall today, they would not be able to do anything. The 10 of you come with me. After Duan Lingtian and the others arrived, in less than 10 breaths, an Enforcement Hall's elder walked out of the Enforcement Hall's main hall and beckoned to Duan Lingtian and the others to follow him. Based on the uniform the Enforcement Hall's elder was wearing, it was obvious he was also a Bronze Flame Elder. Under the lead of the Bronze Flame Elder, Duan Lingtian and the others met with the true disciples who had been on duty in the Enforcement Hall for the past month, and completed the handover process with them. As for the handover process, it was nothing more than their original duties. When the 10 true disciples were about to leave the Enforcement Hall after the handover, they looked at Duan Lingtian with pity in their eyes. Many of them even shook their heads and sighed. Their thoughts were similar to the others. They all felt Duan Lingtian was akin to sending a lamb to the tiger's den to be on duty in the Enforcement Hall. It was apparent they had heard about the conflict between Duan Lingtian and Dong Lin. As true disciples on duty in the Enforcement Hall, it was only natural that they had their own residence. Each of them had their own independent and spacious room in the Enforcement Hall's main hall. Junior brother Lingtian will officially be on duty in the Enforcement Hall from tomorrow onward. Today is also the only day you'll have a chance to meet senior sister Ru Yan. Let's go. I'll bring you to meet the senior in our clan. As soon as Duan Lingtian entered the room, he heard Lu Yun's words before he could even close the door. All right. Upon hearing Lu Yun's words, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately. At this moment, his eyes were like 2 dazzling stars in the night sky. Let's look for him at his residence first. If he's not there, we'll look for him at his post. After all, he's not like us. He has to be on duty. Lu Yun continued. Since the true disciples were only on duty in the enforcement hall for a month before they were dismissed, there was no such thing as being on duty or taking a break. It was fine if they were on duty or taking a break. Chapter 2036. One had to admit that Duan Lingtian was quite lucky. The elder in the clan whom Lu Yun had mentioned was not on duty. As soon as Lu Yun spoke, the elder in the clan, a middle-aged man with a cold expression, agreed to bring Duan Lingtian to the prison hall to see Gan Ru Yen. Thank you, Elder Lu Yu. Duan Lingtian quickly expressed his gratitude when he saw the middle-aged man had agreed to his request. Earlier, from Lu Yun's introduction, Duan Lingtian learned that the middle-aged man before him was called Lu Yu. Although he looked like a middle-aged man, he was actually from the same generation as Lu Yun's grandfather's grandfather. He was an old man through and through. As the most outstanding young man in the Lu clan, Lu Yun was highly valued and doted on by Lu Yu. For this reason, Lu Yu had agreed to Lu Yun's request to bring Duan Lingtian to the prison hall to see Gan Ru Yen. Naturally, it was only limited to meeting Gan Ru Yen. On the way here, Lu Yun had repeatedly warned Duan Lingtian not to mention the saint girl and her daughter in front of Lu Yu. For this reason, Duan Lingtian had tried his best to conceal his excitement, afraid Lu Yu would notice. Little Yin I'll bring him to see Gan Ru Yen. You can go back and cultivate now. Try to break through to the third form of the Saint Celestial stage as soon as possible. At that time, you'll be the 9th prodigy of Zoroastrianism. Lu Yu said to Lu Yun solemnly before he brought Duan Lingtian away. Based on his words, it was obvious he had high hopes for Lu Yun. It was as though a senior had high hopes for a junior. Yes, great-grandfather, Lu Yun replied respectfully. He glanced at Duan Lingtian helplessly before he left obediently. Duan Lingtian, follow me to the prison hall. Lu Yun looked at Duan Lingtian. When he greeted the Duan Lingtian, his eyes were filled with surprise. He had also heard about the Duan Lingtian's deeds. It was precisely because of this that Lu Yun, the most outstanding person in the younger generation of the Lu clan, was acquainted with such a person. It was difficult for him to distinguish whether it was a blessing or a curse. To be honest, if he did not have this layer of relationship with Lu Yun, it would be impossible for him to help the Duan Lingtian. In fact, he was even afraid that he would be related to the Duan Lingtian. Now that Lu Yun had spoken to his great-grandfather, he naturally had no reason not to help Duan Lingtian. Yes, Duan Lingtian followed behind Lu Yu, who was walking out of the main hall. After leaving the main palace, Lu Yu glanced at Duan Lingtian indifferently on the way to the prison hall and said calmly, Duan Lingtian, I can tell that little Yun'er values you as a friend. When Lu Yu reached the end of his sentence, he paused for a moment as though he was hesitating. Elder Lu Yu, feel free to speak your mind. Duan Lingtian smiled when he heard the hidden meaning in Lu Yu's words. I hope that you'll keep a distance from little Yun'er in the future. In fact, you might even fall out with him in public. Lu Yu said again. Elder Lu Yu, are you worried that I'll implicate senior brother Lu Yin? Duan Lingtian was not stupid. Naturally, he could guess the meaning behind Lu Yu's words. Not only am I worried that you'll implicate little Yun'er, but I'm even more worried that you'll implicate the Lu clan. Lu Yu said bluntly, forget about Li and whom you've offended in the 4 symbol sanctums. I'm not afraid of him. With me around, he won't be able to touch the Lu clan. However, the 2 people you've offended in the Saint Land have backgrounds that even I have to be wary of. The moment you've offended them, you've offended 2 Golden Flame Elders. If they vent their anger on the Lu clan because of you, even I can only watch helplessly. When Lu Yu reached the end of his sentence, a hint of dread could be seen in his eyes. Lu Yu was currently the strongest powerhouse in the Lu clan. However, even if he was the strongest powerhouse in the Lu clan, he was merely a Silver Flame Elder in the Zoroastrianism. He could not afford to offend a Golden Flame Elder at all. Upon hearing Lu Yu's words, Duan Lingtian fell silent for a moment. Previously, he had not thought about this at all. However, now that Lu Yu had reminded him, he could not help but break out in cold sweat. If Lu Yun was really implicated because of him, If the clan behind Lu Yun was really implicated, because of him, he would never be able to forgive himself for the rest of his life. Elder Lu Yu, thank you for your reminder. After taking a deep breath, Duan Ling Tian looked at Lu Yu and said with a serious expression, "You don't have to worry. Within a month, I'll make everyone think that I've fallen out with senior brother Lu Yun and severed ties with him." Duan Ling Tian, I'm grateful for your understanding. This shows that you're indeed a worthy friend. Xiao Yin'er has a good eye. Lu Yu nodded his head in satisfaction before he continued to say, "However, I know Xiao Yin'er very well. I'm afraid he won't be willing to abandon a friend like you." "Don't worry, Elder Lu Yu. I'll convince senior brother Lu Yun," Duan Lingtian said confidently. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Lu Yu immediately felt relieved. Subsequently, they did not speak for the rest of the journey. The prison hall in the enforcement hall was located in the northern area of the main hall. It was also the border of the enforcement hall's area. It was located at the northern side of the Saint Island. When they arrived at the prison hall, Duan Lingtian and Lu Yu were naturally stopped. Elder Lu Yu. The person who stopped them was a bronze flame elder from the enforcement hall. He was very respectful when he spoke to Lu Yu. "Bring me to Elder Meng Qi and the others," Lu Yu said nonchalantly. "Yes." Following that, under the guidance of the bronze flame elder from the enforcement hall, Duan Lingtian followed Lu Yu to meet the 3 silver flame elders, who were currently on duty at the prison hall. The silver flame elders from the enforcement hall knew each other. Coincidentally, the 3 silver flame elders, who were currently on duty at the prison hall, had a good relationship with Lu Yu. For this reason, the 3 silver flame elders agreed to Lu Yu's request to let Duan Lingtian meet Gan Ruyen. However, there was a time limit. It had only been 15 minutes since Duan Lingtian met Gan Ruyen. Although 15 minutes was a short time, Duan Lingtian did not bargain. This was because he knew that he was only able to meet Gan Ruyen because of Lu Yu. He did not have the right to bargain at all. "In that case, I'll have to trouble the 3 of you." Lu Yu cupped his fist and thanked the 3 silver flame elders who were currently on duty at the prison hall. Soon after, Duan Lingtian was led into the prison hall by one of the silver flame elders, Meng Qi. After Duan Lingtian was brought into the prison hall, the other 2 silver flame elders looked at Lu Yu in surprise and asked, "Lu Yu, what's your relationship with Duan Lingtian? Why are you willing to help him?" "That's right. What's your relationship with him?" Since Duan Lingtian's portrait had spread throughout the entire Zoroastrianism, the 2 silver flame elders recognized Duan Lingtian the moment they saw him. As for Duan Lingtian's past deeds, they had also heard about it. "It's nothing. He just knows one of my juniors, and that junior asked me to help him." Lu Yu smiled faintly. "Lu Yu, this Duan Lingtian is a hot potato. You better tell your junior to stay away from him." "That's right. He's even offended Dong Lin now." Dong Lin is the lifeblood of our enforcement hall's vice hall master Dong. Now that Duan Lingtian has touched his lifeblood, there's no way he'll let this go so easily. The 2 silver flame elders had a good relationship with Lu Yu. Hence, they immediately reminded Lu Yu. "I understand." Lu Yu nodded. If he did not understand, he would not have said those words to Duan Lingtian. However, when he recalled that Duan Lingtian had already promised him, he was relieved. On the other side, Duan Lingtian entered the prison hall under the lead of Silver Flame Elder Meng Qi. As soon as Duan Lingtian entered the prison hall, he could feel a cold aura surging toward him. He could not help but shudder. It was as though the environment in the depths of the prison hall was similar to an ice mountain and snow valley. "Duan Lingtian, I'm curious. Are you related to the dragons?" Meng Qi, who had been silent all this while, suddenly asked. "Elder Meng Qi, I obtained the 9-clawed divine dragon's inheritance by chance, and obtained the ability to transform into a 9-clawed dragon warrior. I've never met any dragons before." Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. "With your innate talent and your identity as a 9-clawed dragon warrior, you'll definitely be heavily nurtured if you go to the dragons." Meng Qi's eyes gleamed as he continued to say, "Although I don't know your relationship with Lu Yu, since he's willing to help you meet Gan Ruyen, I can tell that you have a good relationship with him. Since we've been friends for so many years, I advise you to leave Zoroastrianism as soon as possible. Our enforcement hall's Vice Hall Master Dong is not someone to be trifled with. A hint of dread flashed in Meng Qi's eyes when he mentioned Vice Hall Master Dong. Thank you for your reminder, Elder Meng Qi. Duan Lingtian knew Meng Qi meant well, so he quickly thanked him. However, he did not intend to accept Meng Qi's suggestion. He only had one goal in mind when he came to Zoroastrianism. It was to rescue Kerr and their daughter. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not leave Zoroastrianism before rescuing Kerr and their daughter. Meng Qi seemed to have noticed Duan Lingtian's waning interest, so he did not say anything else. He continued to remain silent for the rest of the journey. The deeper they went into the prison hall, the more they could feel the cold air coming from within. Elder Meng Qi, is it always so cold in the prison hall? Duan Lingtian seemed to have thought of something as his expression turned completely serious. He looked at Meng Qi and asked. There was a hint of anxiety in the depths of his eyes. The place of imprisonment inside is much colder than here. Meng Qi replied. Colder than here? Duan Lingtian's pupils shrank. The first thing he thought of was his and Kerr's daughter. With Kerr's cultivation, she might be able to withstand the environment here. But what about their daughter? How old was she? Why would she be imprisoned in such an environment? Chapter 2037. Although Duan Lingtian had yet to see his daughter, it did not change the fact that blood was thicker than water between them. When Duan Lingtian thought about how his daughter was being tortured in the prison hall, he felt extremely sad. I'm useless. It's all my fault. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's heart was filled with self-reproach. He was thinking about how he would make it up to his daughter after he rescued her, so that he could make up for what he owed her. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian finally regained his senses. Elder Meng Qi, ever since we entered the prison hall, I haven't seen anyone guarding it. Aren't you worried that someone might kidnap the prisoners? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Meng Qi with a gleam in his eyes. Ever since Duan Lingtian entered the prison hall, he did not see a third living person other than himself and Meng Qi. No, let alone a living person. He did not even see a dead person. He wanted to see if there were any loopholes in the prison hall that would allow him to rescue Kerr and their daughter as soon as possible. He did not want Kerr and their daughter to stay here for even a second longer. Kidnap prisoners? Meng Qi could not help but laugh when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Duan Lingtian, you've really underestimated the prison hall of the enforcement hall. The prison hall has been in existence ever since Zoroastrianism moved to the upper province from the lower province. The prison hall is filled with formations that are filled with killing intent. Those below the Saint Celestial stage, who are unfamiliar with these formations, will definitely die if they trespass. Even those below the fourth form of the Saint Celestial stage would be severely injured if they don't die. Even those at the fourth form of the Saint Celestial stage would be in a wretched state if they were to trigger the formations. Unless someone at the fifth form of the Saint Celestial stage or above breaks into the prison hall to rescue the prisoners, they won't be able to take the prisoners away. Meng Qi's words also revealed how terrifying the prison hall was. There were killing formations everywhere in the prison hall. Once triggered, even those at the peak of the quintessential saint stage would definitely die. I see. When Duan Lingtian heard this, he couldn't help but inwardly inhale a breath of cold air. At the same time, he dispelled the idea of trespassing into the prison hall and taking away Kerr and her daughter. One had to know, even with the help of the Jasper Celestial Sword, he would have to exhaust all of his Sun Saint energy that had been raised by the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, before he could kill a powerhouse at the third form of the Saint Celestial stage. The most powerful attack he could cast with the Jasper Celestial Sword was only comparable to the attack of a powerhouse at the fourth form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even if he could withstand the first wave of attacks from the killing array and not die, when the second wave arrived, he would still die without a doubt. Duan Lingtian was well aware of his current strength. Strength, the current me is still too weak. My current cultivation speed is still too slow. Duan Lingtian thought to himself, if I can devour other people's innate spiritual roots, and upgrade my innate spiritual root to a violet one. My cultivation speed will increase exponentially. Even if you encounter a bottleneck, you can forcefully break through it in a very short time. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone brightly when he thought of this. It seems like it's time for me to leave Zoroastrianism and upgrade my innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian knew very well. In Zoroastrianism, due to the sect's rules, it would be difficult for him to kill someone and take their innate spiritual root, even if he had a conflict with them. After all, not everyone was willing to enter the Palace of Death and sign a death pact with him. For example, Wen Yan, who was ranked 9th on the true ranking. Although Wen Yan wanted to tear him into pieces, she did not dare to enter the Palace of Death with him. Naturally, even if he entered the Palace of Death, it would not be convenient for him to devour the innate spiritual roots of those he killed, since the overseer of the Palace of Death would be watching him. The overseer of the Palace of Death was the first silver flame elder of Zoroastrianism. His eyesight was extremely good. Even if Duan Lingtian cast his 10,000 swords territory, he would not be able to block the overseer's sight. At that time, the overseer would most likely be able to see through his method of devouring innate spiritual roots. Duan Lingtian's method of devouring innate spiritual roots was completely dependent on his divine power, the elementary devouring skill. However, who could guarantee that once this matter was exposed, Zoroastrianism would not imprison him and force him to share the elementary devouring skill with him? Duan Lingtian would only be able to share a divine power after he had comprehended it to the highest level. However, Zoroastrianism could imprison him now and force him to share the divine power after he had comprehended the elementary devouring skill to the highest level. Imprison him was the best way to keep him here. Therefore, Duan Lingtian did not dare to take the risk. If he was imprisoned by Zoroastrianism like a lab rat, he would not be able to save Kerr and her daughter. He would not even be able to save himself. Don't be fooled by the fact that we did not trigger any killing formations along the way. That's because I'm familiar with the killing formations here. I know where to go without triggering any killing formations. You should have noticed that I've been taking detours along the way, Duan Lingtian said. Duan Lingtian nodded. Duan Lingtian nodded. Of course, he had noticed this. Moreover, he had also memorized the route Duan Lingtian took. However, the killing formations here change every once in a while. That's because the formation changes itself. Therefore, it might not be the same the next time we come here, Mengqi said. He continued to explain. Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Duan Lingtian was still guessing that the killing formations in the prison hall might change. Now that he heard Duan Lingtian's words, his guess was confirmed. Duan Lingtian realized that the route he had memorized would not be useful in the future. Therefore, he decided not to think about it anymore. It seems like I have to find an opportunity to leave Zoroastrianism without alarming the two of them. If I continue to stay in Zoroastrianism, it will be difficult for me to improve my innate spiritual roots. Duan Lingtian quickly made up his mind. He would leave Zoroastrianism. He would go out and improve his innate spiritual roots. The two people he was referring to were naturally the first Silver Flame Elder Lian from the Black Turtle Sanctum, one of the 4 Symbols Sanctums, and Vice Hall Master Dong from the Law Enforcement Hall, who was also Dong Lin's father. If he left and was targeted by the two of them, he would be killed as soon as he left Zoroastrianism. I'll leave Zoroastrianism after serving in the Law Enforcement Hall for a month. However, before that, I have to think of a way to get out safely. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. If he wanted to leave Zoroastrianism, he had to come up with a foolproof plan. Otherwise, he would die if he was not careful. If he died, Kerr and her mother would no longer have any hope. If that was the case, he would not be satisfied even if he died. The prison where Gan Ru Yen is being held is just ahead. I'll wait for you at the entrance. You only have 15 minutes. Suddenly Meng Qi's voice sounded. He told Duan Lingtian that they were about to arrive at their destination. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. Were Kerr and her mother imprisoned together with Gan Ru Yen? This was what he was most concerned about. If they were not imprisoned together, he would only be able to see Gan Ru Yen. However, If they were imprisoned together, he would be able to reunite with Kerr and her mother. Soon, Duan Lingtian arrived in front of a stone chamber under Meng Qi's lead. This is where Gan Ru Yen is being held. I'll open the door now, and you can enter. Remember, you only have 15 minutes. Meng Qi reminded Duan Lingtian again, as he looked at him. Understood. Duan Lingtian nodded. Then Duan Lingtian saw Meng Qi raising his hands and making complicated hand signs. As Meng Qi's hands moved, the air in the void seemed to be under his control. All of a sudden, bang! Meng Qi struck out a palm in the air. This palm strike did not contain any saint vital energy. It was just a palm strike. However, Duan Lingtian saw it clearly. As Meng Qi struck out with his palm, the air in the void seemed to be squeezed together, and then hit the door of the stone chamber. Immediately, the outer layer of the stone room's door also emitted circles of ripples. In the end, the ripples spread out to the extreme, and a huge opening appeared, revealing the door of the stone room completely. A formation? Duan Lingtian immediately realized that there was a formation outside the stone chamber. Meng Qi's action just now was to open the formation. After the formation was open, Meng Qi easily pushed open the stone door and looked at Duan Lingtian. Go in. Duan Lingtian nodded and stepped into the stone chamber. Boom! Just as Duan Lingtian entered the stone chamber, and before he could see what was inside, there was a loud bang behind him. The stone door was closed again by Meng Qi. He's really careful. Duan Lingtian shook his head inwardly and began to look at the stone chamber in front of him as well. The stone chamber was not very spacious. It was about the size of 2 rooms in the mansion he was living in now. The interior was very simple. Other than a stone table and a few stone stools around it, there was only a stone bed. Now, there was a woman sitting cross-legged on the stone bed. After he entered, the woman opened her eyes. Her eyes flashed as she stared at him. Kerr! Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat when he saw the woman's face. He was stunned for a moment. However, when he met the woman's gaze, Duan Lingtian's face changed drastically. This was because he saw it. The woman in front of him, who looked exactly like Kerr, was not Kerr, but Gan Ru Yen. This woman was the only one imprisoned in this stone chamber. Who are you? Why are you here? Just as Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically, Gan Ru Yen left the stone bed vigilantly and stared sharply at Duan Lingtian. She asked in a questioning tone, You're still the same as before. You haven't changed at all. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian said flatly. Chapter 2038. You're still the same as before. You haven't changed at all. Duan Lingtian's words were like the first words spoken to an old friend after a long separation. Duan Lingtian said this because the Gan Ru Yen before him was just like the Qi Mei from before. She was domineering and unapproachable. Who are you? Do you know me? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Gan Ru Yen could not help but frown slightly. At the same time, she studied Duan Lingtian carefully. However, she realized she had never seen this young man before. Qi Mei, it's been a long time. Duan Lingtian spoke again. He mentioned the alias Gan Ru Yen used when she was in the Debussy subterranean. It was also the alias Gan Ru Yen used when she was an assassin in the Mountainshade Black Market. Qi Mei. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's nickname, Gan Ru Yen's eyes widened in shock. At the same time, Gan Ru Yen began to recall the days she spent in the Debussy subterranean a few years ago. She tried to recall who knew her identity. However, no matter how hard she thought about it, it seemed like the only people who knew Qi Mei was Gan Ru Yen was her sister, and those who were related to her sister in the lower province. Naturally, those people in the lower province did not know Qi Mei was Gan Ru Yen. As for the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, including the people from the Zoroastrianism and her family, the Gong clan, none of them knew her alias, Qi Mei, when she was in the Debussy subterranean. Even her master, Guardian Qing Hua from the Zoroastrianism, did not know her alias when she was in the Debussy subterranean. Who are you? Gan Ru Yen couldn't think of anyone else who knew that she was Qi Mei. She couldn't help but become vigilant. She stared at Duan Lingtian with a serious gaze, as if she was facing a great enemy. Who am I? When he heard Gan Ruyan's words, the indifference on Duan Lingtian's face disappeared without a trace. He then sneered, I was separated from my family because of you. Gan Ruyan, it's only been a few years. Have you already forgotten about me? Did you get the wrong person? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Gan Ruyan was stunned for a moment before asking with a frown. Wrong person? How can you, Gan Ruyan, say something like that? The sneer on Duan Lingtian's face deepened. As Duan Lingtian's sneer deepened, his face that Gan Ruyan could not see through began to distort. His originally handsome face was no longer there. It was replaced by another handsome face. This face had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a high nose, and perfect lips. His perfect facial features gave people a very comfortable feeling, and people couldn't help but praise him in their hearts. What a handsome young man. It's you. If Gan Ruyan did not recognize the young man's face earlier, Gan Ruyan would never forget this face for the rest of her life. This was because this man was the man she hated the most. If it was not for this man, her sister would not have violated the rules of Zoroastrianism and faced a life and death crisis. At that time, when her sister was taken away by the enforcement hall, she even regretted not killing this man who had harmed her sister. At this moment, Gan Ruyan felt as though she had seen a ghost when she saw this man again in this place. Why is he here? How did he get in? Is this really the prison hall where the Zoroastrianism enforcement hall is heavily guarded? At this moment, Gan Ruyan's heart was filled with questions. What? You can recognize me now? Duan Lingtian could not help but sneer when he saw the shock on Gan Ruyan's face when she saw his face. How did you get in? At the same time, Gan Ruyan tried her best to calm down. After a while, she looked at Duan Lingtian and asked in a deep voice. I have my own way of getting in. The sneer on Duan Lingtian's face gradually disappeared as he replied indifferently. Do you know that I can't wait to kill you? Are you seeking your own death by coming here? Gan Ruyan said in a deep voice. You can't wait to kill me? Duan Lingtian could not help but laugh when he heard Gan Ruyan's words. His eyes turned cold as he said coldly. Gan Ruyan, I should be the one saying this to you, right? Don't tell me that until now, you still think that bringing Kerr back was the right choice? If you didn't bring Kerr back, would she have fallen into such a dangerous situation? You should be glad you didn't hand Kerr over to the Saint Land Enforcement Hall. Otherwise you'd have died. Duan Lingtian's tone turned colder when he reached the end of his sentence. It was as though he had fallen into an ice cave. I'd have died? Gan Ruyan was stunned when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. She could not help but laugh disdainfully. She, Gan Ruyan, was ranked 7th on the true ranking of Zoroastrianism. She was one of the 7 great prodigies of Zoroastrianism. She had already entered the Supreme Saint ranking at such a young age. In fact, only the strongest 1,000 people in the Tao Martial Saint Land were qualified to enter the Supreme Saint ranking. Today, the young man whom she had regarded as an ant a few years ago had appeared before her. Although she did not know how he came to be here, she still found it ridiculous. How could his strength have improved so much in just a few years? That's right. Me. Duan Lingtian replied decisively in the face of Gan Ruyan's disdain. As soon as Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, the Sun Saint energy that he had been accumulating in his body surged out. He instantly cast the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, and devoured the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings to strengthen the Sun Saint energy in his body. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, the sound of a sword whistling in the air rang in the air. Crack! Before Gan Ruyan could react, the long hairpin on Gan Ruyan's head broke. Crash! After Gan Ruyan's hairpin broke, her long black hair fell to the ground. She cut a sorry figure. What do you think now? Before Gan Ruyan could see the traces of the Jasper Celestial Sword, Duan Lingtian, who had put the Jasper Celestial Sword away, glanced at Gan Ruyan coldly and asked indifferently. Currently, Duan Lingtian had lost most of his Sun Saint energy. He was powerless. If Gan Ruyan made a move on him now, he would not be able to resist at all. Naturally, since Duan Lingtian dared to expend so much Sun Saint energy, he was certain Gan Ruyan would not make a move on him. After all, if he really wanted to kill Gan Ruyan, It would be very easy for him to do so. He believed that Gan Ruyan could sense it as well. Naturally, Gan Ruyan could sense it as well. How is this possible? Almost at the moment when Duan Lingtian broke Gan Ruyan's hairpin, Gan Ruyan's heart was filled with endless fear. She felt that she was so close to death at that moment. If the target of his sword was not her hairpin, but a vital part of her body, she would definitely die. How can he be so strong? Gan Ruyan secretly gasped. When she looked at Duan Lingtian again, she could not help but feel shocked. She felt that the young man in front of her was completely different from the Duan Lingtian she had met before. That Duan Lingtian was so weak that he could not even withstand a single blow from her. She could even suppress him with just a flick of her finger. However, the Duan Lingtian in front of her was far stronger than her. From the beginning until the end, she did not see any trace of the sword at all. Even when she sparred with the true disciple, who was ranked first on the true ranking of Zoroastrianism, she did not feel such despair and suffocation from the beginning until the end. At that moment, she even felt that her life was out of her control. Terrifying. Too terrifying. Who are you? It was precisely because of this that Gan Ruyan questioned Duan Lingtian's identity again. This was because she did not dare to associate this young man, who could kill her, with a single sword strike with the man who had harmed her sister. What? Do you think it's impossible for me to possess strength that far surpasses yours in just a few years? Duan Lingtian sneered. It was not difficult for him to guess Gan Ruyan's thoughts at this moment. In fact, let alone Gan Ruyan, even he felt like he was dreaming. Back then, Gan Ruyan had appeared as Qi Mei and forcefully took Kerr away. At that time, Gan Ruyan's strength suffocated him. He could only watch as she took Kerr away. He would never forget that scene. At that moment, he felt extremely powerless when he faced Gan Ruyan. After so many years, when he saw Gan Ruyan again, he could even kill Gan Ruyan with just a single sword strike with the Jasper Celestial Sword. This feeling made him feel proud, but at the same time, he felt unrealistic. The difference was too great. It was precisely because of this that he could understand Gan Ruyan's feelings at this moment. A person whom she regarded as an ant a few years ago had the strength to kill her with just a single sword strike. As long as she was a normal person, she would not be able to accept this. It's impossible for you to be him, let alone a few years. Even if he's given a few decades or a few centuries, he might not necessarily have your strength. Tell me, who are you? What does this have to do with him? Why are you impersonating him? Are you trying to stand up for him and humiliate me? Gan Ruyan's expression turned even more unsightly. However, she still could not believe the Duan Lingtian in front of her was the Duan Lingtian she had come into contact with in the past. It doesn't matter to me whether you believe me or not. The reason I'm here today is not because I want to see you, but because I want to see Ku-er and our daughter. Duan Lingtian said indifferently. At the same time, he bluntly revealed his purpose of entering the prison hall. He wanted to see Kerr and their daughter. Gan Ruyan frowned when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. She asked hesitantly, "What's wrong?" Chapter 2039. It's the truth. Duan Lingtian replied coldly and decisively in the face of Gan Ruyan's repeated questions. His cold voice resonated in the air. At the same time, it seemed as though the temperature in the surroundings had dropped a few degrees. Gan Ruyan still found it hard to believe when she heard Duan Lingtian's resolute reply. However, she found a sense of déjà vu in the young man's eyes. Previously, when she brought her sister away from the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the gaze of the young man, who had blocked her way, was no different from the gaze of the young man in front of her. In her mind, the two of them overlapped. It did not seem out of place at all. How's it possible that you're so strong? Gan Ruyan gasped. Although she still found it hard to believe, she knew she had no choice but to believe it even if she did not want to. This was because Duan Lingtian was standing in front of her. Moreover, his strength had already surpassed hers. You don't have to worry about how I'm so strong. I've already said that I'm here to see Kerr and her daughter, not you. Where are they now? Duan Lingtian asked in a timely manner. Since you're not here to see me, Why don't you just go and see them? Gan Ruyen asked. At this moment, even Gan Ruyen did not notice that when she spoke to Duan Lingtian again, her tone had softened a little. She was no longer as domineering as before. It was as though she was awed by the strength Duan Lingtian had displayed. Perhaps, she was touched by the fact that Duan Lingtian had come all the way to the Zoroastrianism to look for her sister. However, one thing was certain: Gan Ruyen, who originally hated Duan Lingtian to the core, suddenly had a thought that Duan Lingtian was indeed worthy of her sister. In fact, in the past, she only thought Duan Lingtian was a toad. She did not think Duan Lingtian was worthy of her sister at all. However, after witnessing Duan Lingtian's strength, her attitude had unknowingly changed. Even she did not notice the change. Do you think the enforcement hall's elder will let me see Kerr and her daughter if I say so? Duan Lingtian sneered. Upon hearing this, Gan Ruyen finally understood. Her sister was different from her. Her sister had committed a taboo in the Zoroastrianism. She was a very sensitive person in the Zoroastrianism, let alone Duan Lingtian. Even the Golden Flame elders in the Zoroastrianism might not be able to see her sister, even if they wanted to. From the beginning, they weren't locked up with me. Gan Ruyen sighed and said, when I brought Yu Yen back, I hid her in my mansion until she gave birth to your daughter. Gan Ruyen paused for a moment when she reached the end of her sentence. Yu Yen. Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow when he realized the Yu Yen Gan Ruyen mentioned was Kerr's other name. Yu Yen named your daughter Duan Xiling, Duan Xiling said. Gan Ruyen said as she looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Xiling. It was Gan Ruyen's words that caught Duan Lingtian off guard. His heart skipped a beat, as though something had touched him. Duan Yintian was the name little Feier had given to their son. Duan Xiling was the name Kerr had given to their daughter. Although the names were different, they had the same meaning. She missed him. Duan Lingtian. Since you're able to find your way here, it means that you've heard about what happened after that. I've kept Yu Yan's matter a secret from almost everyone. However, in the end, Wen Yan discovered some clues and reported me to the enforcement hall. Gan Ruyan's eyes flashed coldly when she mentioned Wen Yan. If it were not for Wen Yan, her sister would not have been locked up by the enforcement hall. Due to Wen Yan's report, Yu Yan and our daughter were taken away by the enforcement hall. As for me, I went to look for my master, Guardian Qinghua, one of the 3 great guardians of Zoroastrianism. Initially, I wanted to ask for Master's help, but Master said I was foolish and told me to go to the enforcement hall. Gan Ruyen sighed when she reached the end of her sentence. I know Master is doing this for my own good. When Lord Sect Leader comes out of his closed-door cultivation in the future and finds out about this matter, he might let me off for his sake. However, Master said there's nothing he can do about Yu Yan. He can only leave it to Lord Sect Leader to make a decision. Gan Ruyan's expression turned solemn. A hint of worry could be seen in her eyes when she reached the end of her sentence. Make a decision? What's there to make a decision about? Duan Lingtian sneered when he heard Gan Ruyan's words. Put aside the fact that Kerr didn't want to end up in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. What does her life have to do with Zoroastrianism? She fell in love with me and had children with me. What does that have to do with Zoroastrianism? What right does Zoroastrianism have to decide her life? What right does it have to decide her life and death? Duan Lingtian's cold voice trembled slightly when he reached the end of his sentence. It was obvious he was furious. It was as though the anger he had been suppressing in his heart all this time had exploded all at once. I know you're unwilling to accept this, but do you think I'm willing to accept this as well? Gan Ruyen smiled wryly. Didn't you ask me if I still think bringing Yu Yan back to Zoroastrianism was the right choice? Let me tell you, I still think it was the right choice. This was because as long as Yu Yan was in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the people sent by Zoroastrianism would be able to find her sooner or later. However, I didn't expect that even after I found her, brought her back, and hid her away, she was still found out in the end. When Gan Ruyen reached the end of her sentence, the killing intent in her eyes shone again. Her killing intent was clearly directed at Wen Yan as well. After venting his anger, Duan Lingtian calmed down a lot. Based on Gan Ruyan's words, He could sense that Gan Ruyen was genuinely concerned about Kerr. Perhaps, the way she was concerned was not what he wanted, but she had good intentions. I really don't know what you're thinking. You actually brought Kerr back to Zoroastrianism and walked right into the trap. Couldn't you have found a place for her to stay outside? However, Duan Lingtian could not help but mock Gan Ruyen for her foolish act of bringing Kerr back to Zoroastrianism. Find a place for her to stay outside? Do you think I'll be at ease? Gan Ruyen said in a deep voice. She's my biological sister, my long-lost biological sister. Even if I can't see her for half a day, I'll still be worried about her safety. Moreover, in my opinion, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. However, no matter how I thought about it, I didn't expect Wen Yen to be hiding in the dark and watching me. She even discovered Yu Yen, who I brought back. When Gan Ruyen mentioned Wen Yen again, the killing intent in her eyes became even more intense. Duan Lingtian no longer blamed her when he sensed Gan Ruyen's genuine sorrow. Instead, he changed the topic and asked, "Do you know where Kerr and our daughter are being held?" "I don't know." Gan Ruyen shook her head. "The prison hall is huge, and there are many stone cells. Yu Yen and our daughter should be in one of the stone cells. Don't worry, before the sect leader of Zoroastrianism comes out of his closed-door cultivation, the enforcement hall won't touch her at all. However, if the sect leader comes out of his closed-door cultivation, I'm afraid Yu Yen and our daughter would." When Gan Ruyen reached this part of her sentence, a hint of regret and pity could be seen in her eyes. "If I had a choice, I'd rather not bring her out of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, even though I think it was a wrong decision. However, if I did that, even if she was brought back by the Zoroastrianism, at least the mother and daughter would be able to spend more time with you. Right now, it's not certain if the mother and daughter would be able to reunite with you or not." Tears rolled down Gan Ruyen's cheeks. Based on her words, it was as though she did not think her sister would survive. "We'll definitely be able to reunite," Duan Lingtian said resolutely. "I'll definitely rescue Kerr and our daughter before the sect leader of Zoroastrianism comes out of his closed-door cultivation. If something happens to Kerr and their daughter because of the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, in the future, not only will I tear him into pieces, but I'll also destroy the foundation of Zoroastrianism with my own hands. I'll make Zoroastrianism disappear from the Dao Martial Saint Land forever, and become a part of the Dao Martial Saint Land's history." When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, his tone was extremely cold, as though it came from an ice cave. It sent chills down one's spine when they heard it. If it was before, Gan Ruyen would think Duan Lingtian had overestimated himself when Duan Lingtian said this. However, after witnessing the transformation of Duan Lingtian's strength in just a few years, she no longer doubted Duan Lingtian's words. Duan Lingtian had the potential. Perhaps, once your innate talent is exposed, even the sect leader won't dare to make a move on Yu Yen. However, the prerequisite is that you must show the potential that the entire Zoroastrianism is afraid of, Gan Ruyen said excitedly when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. Naturally, the prerequisite is that you can't continue to stay in Zoroastrianism and prevent the Zoroastrianism from finding you. Otherwise, the sect leader won't have anything to fear as long as you're killed in the cradle. Gan Ruyen finished her sentence in one breath. Gan Ruyen's words reminded Duan Lingtian that he was even more determined to show his potential in Zoroastrianism. "It seems like I should leave Zoroastrianism as soon as I leave the enforcement hall. As long as I return after raising my innate spiritual root to a violet innate spiritual root, I'll definitely shock the entire Zoroastrianism and the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land." Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he made up his mind. Chapter 2040. After making up his mind, Duan Lingtian wished he could give himself a pair of wings and leave the Zoroastrianism to improve his innate spiritual root. As long as his innate spiritual root transformed into a violet innate spiritual root, he would be able to return in glory and shock the entire Zoroastrianism and the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. He He would become a rare peerless genius with a violet innate spiritual root in the upper province of the Tao martial saint land. At that time, all he had to do was spread the word that if the Zoroastrianism dared to touch Kerr and their daughter, he would definitely erase the Zoroastrianism from the upper province of the Tao martial saint land. He believed the Zoroastrianism would not dare to touch Kerr and their daughter as long as they could not get rid of him because of his potential. Thank you for the reminder. After regaining his senses, Duan Lingtian thanked Gan Yen. At the same time, the remaining trace of hatred he had for Gan Yen disappeared. No matter what, the woman in front of her was still Kuer's biological sister. She was Kuer's family. If he continued to argue with her, Kerr would be the one who would be hurt. For this reason, Duan Lingtian decided to let go of the hatred he had for Gan Yen. Moreover, he was certain Gan Yen did not intend to harm Kerr at all. You don't have to thank me. Gan Yen shook her head. Then she said solemnly, actually, you and I share the same reason. We both want Yu Yen and our daughter to be safe and sound. Don't forget, Yu Yen is my twin sister. She's also Gan Yan's only sister. I, Gan Yen, would rather sacrifice my life than let anything happen to Yu Yen. Gan Yan's tone was resolute and decisive when she spoke. Duan Lingtian nodded his head. Based on Gan Yan's tone, he could tell Gan Yen was speaking from the bottom of her heart. After a moment of silence, Duan Lingtian looked at Gan Yen and said, there's something I find strange. Why was Kerr the only one chosen to be the saint girl of the Zoroastrianism? Why didn't the Zoroastrianism choose you to be the saint girl? Could it be that the rumor occurs? It's true that she possesses a violet innate spiritual root? Duan Lingtian's words answered the questions in his heart. Indeed, her innate spiritual root is a violet innate spiritual root. However, that's not the main reason she was chosen to be the saint girl of the Zoroastrianism. Gan Yen said solemnly when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. Not the main reason. Duan Lingtian was stunned. When he saw Gan Yan's expression turning solemn, his expression turned solemn as well. What's the main reason? The main reason is that I've only heard my master mention it by chance. I think he said Yu Yen is the reincarnation of a goddess. Gan Yan's expression turned even more solemn when she spoke. The reincarnation of a goddess. Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Gan Yan's words. If it was in the past, he might have thought it was ridiculous when he heard this. However, he was also a person who had been reincarnated. However, he was the reincarnation of the Earth's soldier elite, not the reincarnation of a goddess or a god. Therefore, when he heard Gan Yan's words, he did not think it was impossible. Instead, he was shocked. Kerr is the reincarnation of a goddess? This, Duan Lingtian, did not know what to say at this moment. However, he quickly looked at Gan Yen and asked, are you sure you didn't hear wrongly? Your master, the guardian of the Zoroastrianism, said Kerr is the reincarnation of a goddess? That's what master said. However, I'm afraid only the sect leader knows the details. Gan Yen said. It doesn't matter if Kerr is the reincarnation of a goddess or not. She's still my woman. A bright light flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes, and his tone was resolute and decisive as he said, I'll protect my woman. If the Zoroastrianism dares to lay a finger on her, I'll annihilate the Zoroastrianism in the future and make the Zoroastrianism history of the Tao martial saint land forever. After he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian looked at Gan Yen and said, I only have 15 minutes to see you. Now that the 15 minutes are almost up, it's time for me to leave. If the enforcement hall's elders come and ask you why I'm looking for you, you'll have to come up with an excuse. There's no need for me to answer. Gan Yen did not mind Duan Lingtian's words at all. She said there was no need for her to answer. Who was she? Apart from being a true disciple who was ranked 7th on the true ranking, the most outstanding female disciple among the younger generation of Zoroastrianism, and one of the 7 prodigies of Zoroastrianism, she was also the direct disciple of Qinghua, one of the 3 great guardians of Zoroastrianism. A mere silver flame elder from the enforcement hall's prison hall did not have the right to make her explain anything. Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Gan Yan's domineering words. He smiled wryly and said, I've forgotten that your master is Guardian Qing Hua, one of the 3 great guardians. Take care of yourself. It's time for me to leave as well. After he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian turned around and left. Dong! Dong! After knocking on the stone door twice, the stone door was opened by the Silver Flame Elder, Meng Qi, who was guarding outside. After Duan Lingtian left, Meng Qi closed the stone door and reactivated the formation that enveloped the stone room. Let's go. After everything was done, Meng Qi called out to Duan Lingtian and brought Duan Lingtian out of the prison hall again. After leaving the prison hall, Duan Lingtian met up with Lu Yu, who was waiting outside. After Lu Yu greeted Meng Qi and the other Silver Flame Elders from the prison hall, he brought Duan Lingtian out of the prison hall and headed to the main palace of the enforcement hall. Thank you, Elder Lu Yu. Duan Lingtian did not forget to thank Lu Yu along the way. If you want to thank someone, you should thank little Yin. However, I hope you won't forget the promise you made to me earlier. Lu Yu said indifferently at first, but after that, he changed the topic and his tone became somewhat serious. Don't worry, Elder Lu Yu. I, Duan Lingtian, will never go back on my words. Duan Lingtian said confidently. Naturally, he knew what the promise Lu Yu mentioned was. It was nothing more than a reminder for him to sever all ties with Lu Yun in front of others, so that he would not implicate Lu Yun and the Lu clan behind Lu Yun because of his matter. He had already promised Lu Yu this, so he would not go back on his words. Moreover, he was being responsible to Lu Yun by doing this. Otherwise, if something happened to Lu Yun and the Lu clan because of him, he would never be able to forgive himself for the rest of his life. In order to take precautions, he decided that after persuading Lu Yun, he would fall out with Lu Yun and even cut ties with him. As long as the news of him severing ties with Lu Yun spread to the entire saint land of Zoroastrianism, those who targeted him would no longer target Lu Yun because of him. After Duan Lingtian left, Meng Qi returned to the prison hall. Then, he opened the stone chamber, where Gan Ru Yen was imprisoned, and entered it. As soon as he entered, Meng Qi forced a bright smile on his face. He looked at Gan Ru Yen and asked, Miss Ru Yen, have you been comfortable here recently? Comfortable? Upon hearing Meng Qi's words, Gan Ru Yen smiled coldly. Why don't we switch places and see if you're comfortable here? Upon hearing this, Meng Qi could not help but smile awkwardly. Miss Ru Yen. Then, as though he recalled something, Meng Qi asked solemnly, May I ask, what's the relationship between you and Duan Lingtian, who came to look for you, Miss Ru Yen? He didn't hesitate to use his connections to enter the prison hall just to see you. Moreover, most importantly, he's a new disciple of Zoroastrianism. He only joined Zoroastrianism after you came to the prison hall, senior sister Ru Yen. Meng Qi did not hesitate to ask about the relationship between Duan Lingtian and Gan Ru Yen. He had a feeling that the two of them knew each other. Otherwise, Duan Lingtian would not have used his connections to enter the prison hall just to see Gan Ru Yen. Why do you care about my relationship with him? Gan Ru Yen could not help but smile coldly when she heard Meng Qi's question. She had no intention of answering Meng Qi's question. A hint of displeasure flashed in the depths of Meng Qi's eyes when he saw Gan Ru Yan's rudeness. However, he did not dare to show it. He forced a smile and said, Miss Ru Yen, I'm just asking. I don't have any other intentions. It seems like he's your friend, Miss Ru Yen. No wonder he would humiliate Wen Yen like that last time. So it turns out that it was because Wen Yen reported the matter of you, young Miss Ru Yen. To think that we were bewildered earlier, and wondered why a new disciple like him would humiliate Wen Yen for no reason, and not others. Meng Qi could not help but sigh as he spoke. When Duan Lingtian mentioned that he was looking for Gan Ru Yen, Meng Qi and the other 2 Silver Flame Elders from the prison hall immediately thought of Wen Yen, who was humiliated by Duan Lingtian. In the past, they thought Duan Lingtian was humiliating Wen Yen without any reason. But now they didn't think so. This was because Duan Lingtian knew Gan Ru Yen. Moreover, he seemed to be very close to Gan Ru Yen. Otherwise, he would not have gone to the trouble of coming to the enforcement hall just to see Gan Ru Yen. Moreover, Although the salary that the enforcement hall gives to the true disciples on duty is quite high, to a true disciple like him, who possesses 1 million contribution points, it's like a drop in the ocean. Meng Qi continued to say. It seems like the reason he came to the enforcement hall is to see you, Miss Ru Yan. 1 million contribution points? Gan Ru Yan was stunned when she heard Meng Qi's words. What 1 million contribution points? Did you just say he has 1 million contribution points? Gan Ru Yan was shocked. Duan Lingtian had 1 million contribution points? After all, she had only accumulated about 200,000 contribution points after practicing Zoroastrianism for so many years. Chapter 2041. Yes. Please search for the most complete information. Yes. Meng Qi did not dare to slack off when he heard Gan Ru Yan's question. He quickly nodded in response. He hasn't been in the Zoroastrianism for long, right? How did he get so many contribution points? Gan Ru Yan asked in confusion. She was shocked. When Meng Qi heard Gan Ru Yan's question, he replied again. Although he has only been in the Zoroastrianism for less than a year, almost everything that has happened in the sect has something to do with him. Meng Qi paused for a moment before he continued. As for the 1 million contribution points, he earned them in the Hall of Life and Death, when he first came to the Saint Land from the Four Symbols Sanctums. Everything that has happened in the sect has something to do with him? Gan Ru Yan was stunned when she heard the first part of Meng Qi's sentence. Gan Ru Yan was puzzled when she heard the second part of Meng Qi's sentence. Hall of Life and Death. Since when can one earn so many contribution points in the Hall of Life and Death? Why haven't I heard of such a good thing before? This matter started when he first came to the Black Turtle Sanctum, one of the Four Symbols Sanctums of the Zoroastrianism. Meng Qi told Gan Ru Yan about how Duan Lingtian had killed Yang Wu, the second son of the Northern Plethora sect's fifth elder. As soon as he arrived at the Zoroastrianism, he also mentioned that the eldest son of the Northern Plethora sect's fifth elder was the Zoroastrianism's true disciple, Yang Wen. There were more than 170 true disciples in total. Gan Ru Yan had some impression of Yang Wen. However, although Yang Wen was also a true disciple like her, his strength was not enough to be listed on the true ranking. Therefore, she did not pay much attention to Yang Wen. Naturally, she did not pay much attention to a true disciple like Yang Wen. That Yang Wen is actually the eldest son of the Northern Plethora sect's fifth elder? When Gan Ru Yan found out that Yang Wen was the eldest son of Yang Chong, the fifth elder of the Northern Plethora sect, she was a little surprised as well. She did not expect Yang Wen to be so secretive. Nobody had ever mentioned that he had such an identity before. Of course, even if Yang Wen was the son of the Northern Plethora sect's fifth elder, Gan Ru Yan did not take it to heart. In terms of strength, Yang Wen was far inferior to her. In terms of background, Yang Wen couldn't even compare to her. It's precisely because Duan Lingtian killed Yang Wu that Yang Wen went to look for trouble with him as soon as he arrived at the Saint Land. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, challenged Yang Wen to a death duel as soon as he opened his mouth. In the end, the two of them went to the Hall of Life and Death and signed the life and death contract. When Meng Qi said this, he couldn't help but sigh. From the beginning, Yang Wen and the other Saint Land's disciples thought Duan Lingtian was deliberately mystifying things. However, reality gave them a resounding slap in the face. Yang Wen was killed by Duan Lingtian. Gan Ru Yan was not surprised to hear that Yang Wen was killed by Duan Lingtian. She had just witnessed Duan Lingtian's strength. Even she was far from being a match for him, let alone Yang Wen, who was even weaker than her. As Meng Qi continued to explain in detail, Gan Ru Yan also learned how Duan Lingtian obtained the 1 million contribution points. As it turned out, he had won the contribution points by betting on her victory in the Hall of Life and Death. The bow he took out is also not an ordinary item. Otherwise, Elder Niezue wouldn't have given him 200,000 contribution points as collateral. Gan Ru Yan thought to herself. Niezue was from the same lineage as her and her master, Qinghua, and Niezue. In terms of seniority, Niezue, the custodian of the Hall of Life and Death, could be considered as her senior brother. For this reason, she knew Niezue very well. She knew that Nie Zui was a person who would not do anything without benefits. After learning about the origin of the 1 million contribution points in Duan Lingtian's hands, Gan Ruyan looked at Meng Qi and continued to ask, "You said earlier that he had something to do with all the commotion in the sect in the past year? What commotion? Tell me about it." Gan Ruyan asked further. Gan Ruyan was also curious about the commotion caused by Duan Lingtian. In the face of Gan Ruyan's repeated questions, Meng Qi patiently answered her and told her everything related to Duan Lingtian. Gan Ruyan's expression was very interesting as she listened to Meng Qi's narration. She did not expect Duan Lingtian would cause so many commotion in Zoroastrianism in less than a year. As soon as he entered the Black Turtle Sanctum, one of the 4 symbols sanctums of Zoroastrianism, he offended the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Lian. Then, he killed someone in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, another one of the 4 symbols sanctums. Due to his blue innate spiritual root, he was pardoned by the Enforcement Hall. Wait a minute. Blue innate spiritual root? Are you saying his innate spiritual root is a blue innate spiritual root? When Meng Qi mentioned the grade of Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root, Gan Ruyan immediately interrupted him with a shocked expression on her face. "Are you sure you're not mistaken?" "No." Meng Qi shook his head. His innate spiritual root should be a blue spiritual root. Why? Don't tell me you think his innate spiritual root is only a yellow innate spiritual root? Yellow innate spiritual root? Gan Ruyan completely ignored the second half of Meng Qi's words. How could a person who was only 1 or 2 years older than her possess an innate spiritual root that was much stronger than her and had improved so quickly in just a few years? How could such a person possess a yellow innate spiritual root? In fact, Gan Ruyan did not think Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. Based on Duan Lingtian's cultivation speed, his innate spiritual root should be at least an indigo innate spiritual root. It might even be a violet innate spiritual root. After all, she knew Duan Lingtian's strength very well a few years ago. Are you saying his innate spiritual root should be a blue innate spiritual root? Why did you add the word should? Gan Ruyan asked. Currently, there's a rumor in the sect that he knows how to conceal his innate spiritual root. If he's concealing his blue innate spiritual root, then his innate spiritual root might be an indigo innate spiritual root or higher, Meng Qi said. Then he added, "Of course that's not realistic." Unrealistic? Gan Ruyan did not comment on Meng Qi's words. She was certain Duan Lingtian possessed an indigo or violet innate spiritual root. Gan Ruyan only began to waver when Meng Qi explained the source of Duan Lingtian's strength. His cultivation base is only at the early quintessential saint stage. He's able to defeat a powerhouse at the second form of the saint celestial stage, because he has mastered 4 high-grade divine abilities and a strange sword technique? Gan Ruyan was stunned when she heard Meng Qi's words. Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was only at the early quintessential saint stage? This was shocking news to Gan Ruyan. In fact, when Duan Lingtian's unpredictable sword slashed at her, she felt as though she had just brushed shoulders with the Grim Reaper. At that time, she thought Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was at the 3rd form of the Saint Celestial stage or higher. However, Meng Qi was telling her that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was only at the early quintessential saint stage. An early quintessential saint stage martial cultivator possessed strength comparable to a powerhouse at the 3rd form of the Saint Celestial stage. Although Gan Ruyan was unwilling to believe it, she had no choice but to believe it when Meng Qi continued. Duan Lingtian's strength was comparable to a powerhouse at the 3rd form of the Saint Celestial stage, even though his cultivation base was only at the early quintessential saint stage. If his cultivation base is only at the early quintessential saint stage, his innate spiritual root might be a blue innate spiritual root. Gan Ruyan thought to herself. Soon after, Gan Ruyan learned another shocking news. Duan Lingtian was a 9-clawed dragon warrior. Naturally, she knew what a 9-clawed dragon warrior meant. However, she did not expect Duan Lingtian to be a 9-clawed dragon warrior. When Yan, she didn't dare to accept his challenge to a death duel? She was beaten into a pig's head in public? Gan Ruyan felt proud when she heard about the conflict between Duan Lingtian and Wen Yan. It was as though she was the one who had humiliated Wen Yan, and not Duan Lingtian. Sister, you've really found yourself a good man. He went into the tiger's den for you, and even risked offending a golden flame elder to avenge you. At this moment, Gan Ruyan's impression of Duan Lingtian changed drastically. Gan Ruyan knew her place. Duan Lingtian did not teach Wen Yan a lesson because of her. He must have taught her a lesson because of her twin sister and her niece. However, a hint of dread appeared in Gan Ruyan's eyes when she learned Duan Lingtian had offended Dong Lin in order to join the enforcement hall. Dong Lin was the only son of one of the vice hall masters in the enforcement hall. Duan Lingtian had offended him and would have to stay in the enforcement hall for a month. His life would not be easy in the future. Perhaps Dong Lin was not as strong as Duan Lingtian, but he did not need to personally make a move in the enforcement hall if he wanted to take revenge on Duan Lingtian. Elder Meng Qi, I have a favor to ask of you. Gan Ruyan looked at Meng Qi and said seriously, Miss Ruyan, feel free to speak your mind. Meng Qi said with a smile on his face. To him, the woman before him was like a grand aunt. If he neglected her and guardian Qing He found out about it, then even if he didn't die, he would still lose a layer of skin as an elder of the enforcement hall. Please pass this voice transmission jade slip to my master on my behalf. Gan Ruyan took out a voice transmission jade slip and transmitted her voice into it before passing it to Meng Qi. All right, Meng Qi agreed immediately after receiving the voice transmission jade slip. The message that Gan Ruyan left in the voice transmission jade slip was very simple. She asked her master to take care of Duan Lingtian. Of course, she didn't reveal Duan Lingtian's identity as her brother-in-law. She only said he was a friend she'd gotten to know when she was training outside. And the reason he'd wantonly humiliated Wen Yan was because he was standing up for her. She had mentioned Wen Yan because she wanted her master to resonate with her against a common enemy. After all, her master hated Wen Yan to the core for reporting her. Chapter 2042. However, although her master hated Wen Yan, it was not convenient for him to make a move on her. After all, her master was one of the three great guardians of Zoroastrianism. If he made a move on a disciple of Zoroastrianism, people would laugh their heads off. At that time, the people of Zoroastrianism might even become the laughingstock of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian, this is all I can do for you. After Meng Qi left with the voice transmission jade slip, Gan Ruyan, who was all alone, muttered to herself. Just as he was about to leave the prison hall with the voice transmission jade token that Gan Ruyan had given him, and was about to leave the enforcement hall, Duan Lingtian returned to the main hall of the enforcement hall. The first thing he did when he returned was to look for Lu Yun. He would never forget the promise he made to Lu Yu. Junior brother Lingtian, did you see the saint girl and her daughter? Lu Yun could not help but ask when he saw Duan Lingtian had returned. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head with a wry smile on his face. They're not with Gan Ruyan. I only saw Gan Ruyan. What a pity. Lu Yun sighed when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. At the same time, he began to console Duan Lingtian. Junior brother Lingtian, I'll find some time to ask my great-grandfather if I can help you find a chance to meet the saint girl and her daughter. Thank you, senior brother Lu Yun. Although Duan Lingtian knew it was almost impossible for Lu Yun to do what he said, he still thanked him. No matter what, Lu Yun had good intentions. Senior brother Lu Yun. After a series of expressions flashed across his face, Duan Lingtian gritted his teeth, as though he had made up his mind. He looked at Lu Yun. Seeing Duan Lingtian suddenly looking over with a serious expression, Lu Yun could not help but be stunned. He asked in confusion, Junior brother Lingtian, do you have something to say? Senior brother Lu Yun, we might not have known each other for long, but we've already exchanged our hearts. Duan Lingtian's serious expression caused Lu Yun to shake his head and smile. However, Duan Lingtian's next sentence completely froze the smile on Lu Yun's face. Senior brother Lu Yun, from today onwards, Let's not interact with each other anymore. It was precisely these words that caused the smile on Lu Yun's face to completely disappear. Subsequently, he looked at Duan Lingtian with an expression of disbelief. Junior Lingtian, what do you mean by this? Could it be that you feel that I, Lu Yun, am climbing up your social ladder by interacting with you? As he spoke, Lu Yun's tone changed. Of course not. Duan Lingtian knew that Lu Yun had misunderstood. He could not help but smile bitterly. Senior brother Lu Yun, in my heart, you'll always be my senior brother and my friend. However, you're not alone. You have a family behind you. Moreover, even if you were alone, I would still make the same decision today. Although I haven't been in Zoroastrianism for long, I've offended many people, especially Dong Lin, who I've offended recently. His father is the Vice Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall. Although I'm not afraid of him, I don't want to drag you and your family down with me. Duan Lingtian's words were from the bottom of his heart. Did great-grandfather ask you to do this? Lu Yun's expression was slightly ugly as he asked in a deep voice. He could vaguely guess some things. Senior brother Lu Yun, there are some things that if I don't want to do, no one can persuade me or force me to do them. This decision is also my decision. The friendship between you and me, as well as the friendship between me and senior brother Lu Mu, will never change. However, based on the current situation, it's best for us to keep a distance. Duan Lingtian said seriously. I promise you, I'll definitely get rid of all the hidden dangers in the future. At that time, we'll drink and chat happily. We won't have to worry about our relationship anymore. Lu Yun's expression changed drastically when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. At most, I'll just leave the family. In the end, Lu Yun gritted his teeth and made the decision to leave the Lu family. This way, he would not have to worry about dragging the Lu family down with him. Senior brother Lu Yun, you can't do this. Duan Lingtian was shocked. However, his heart was filled with warmth. He did not expect Lu Yun would leave the Lu family for his friend and his family. In the end, it was Duan Lingtian who pretended to fall out with him. Only then did Lu Yun reluctantly agree to follow Duan Lingtian's instructions. That day, a shocking piece of news spread out from the enforcement hall's main hall. Duan Lingtian had a conflict with his old friend, Lu Yun, and injured him. After that, an elder of Lu Yun's family, the enforcement hall's silver flame elder Lu Yu, taught Duan Lingtian a lesson. Duan Lingtian and Lu Yun broke off their relationship and became strangers from then on. The entire Zoroastrianism Saint Land was in an uproar. Senior brother Duan Lingtian and senior brother Lu Yun broke off their relationship? Why is that so? Haven't both of them always been on good terms? Why did they break off just like that? Many disciples of the Holy Lands were dumbfounded when they heard the news. They had no idea what was going on. Brother Yin and junior brother Lingtian broke off their relationship? The person with the biggest reaction was none other than Lu Mu. Compared to his cousin Lu Yin, he knew Duan Lingtian much earlier. It could be said that Lu Yin knew Duan Lingtian through him. In his impression, junior brother Lingtian was not someone who would create trouble out of nothing. In that case, could it be that it was his cousin's fault? Lu Mu was extremely anxious. He could not wait to go to the enforcement hall and ask Duan Lingtian and Lu Yin what was going on. However, Zoroastrianism elders and disciples could not enter the enforcement hall because of personal matters. For this reason, he could not go to the enforcement hall to look for Duan Lingtian and Lu Yin even if he wanted to. He could only wait until Duan Lingtian and Lu Yun's term of duty ended a month later. He could only ask them when they returned. In the enforcement hall's main hall. The main hall was huge. Dong Lin, the enforcement hall's bronze flame elder, lived in it as well. Duan Lingtian broke off with Lu Yin? Dong Lin was stunned when he heard the news. Then he sneered and said, Duan Lingtian, you're really a loner. It's not easy for you to make a friend, but you've fallen out with him just like that. Unfortunately, that elder Lu Yu was too lenient and didn't do anything to you. However, even if elder Lu Yu didn't do anything to you, it doesn't mean I'll do the same to you. The moment Dong Lin thought of this, he left his residence and the enforcement hall's main hall. The eastern side of the enforcement hall was the forbidden area of the enforcement hall. The hall master and a few vice hall masters of the enforcement hall usually cultivated there. Naturally, this was a forbidden area for the ordinary enforcement hall's elders and disciples. They were not allowed to enter without reason. However, Dong Lin was an exception. This was because he was the only son of Dong Yuanjin, one of the 3 vice hall masters of the enforcement hall. Nobody would say anything even if he entered and left this place frequently. In a quiet valley, birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant. There was a waterfall in the north, and one could vaguely hear the sound of water splashing from the waterfall. In the open space in front of the waterfall, there was a mansion. The mansion was surrounded by mountains and water. It looked very comfortable. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past, and Dong Lin appeared in front of the mansion. Young master! As soon as Dong Lin appeared in front of the mansion, a figure gradually materialized in front of him. It was an old man dressed in plain clothes. The old man was skinny, and he looked inconspicuous as he stood there like a withered tree. Elder Yang, even someone as arrogant as Dong Lin, had to greet such an inconspicuous old man respectfully when he saw him. The old man in front of him was his father's servant. However, he knew very well in his heart, this old man's strength was not much weaker than his father's. In Zoroastrianism, he would definitely be a golden flame elder. Young master, you're here to look for master? The old man asked. His voice was slightly hoarse as though he was about to die. Yes, Dong Lin nodded. At the same time, a hint of hatred flashed in his eyes. Dong Yuanjin was one of the 3 vice hall masters of the enforcement hall. He was a middle-aged man with a sturdy body. He stood in the backyard of the mansion like an iron tower. Father! Dong Lin, who was led to the backyard by Elder Yang, bowed respectfully when he saw Dong Yuanjin. Yes. Usually, Dong Yuanjin was very strict in front of Dong Lin. Although he doted on his son a lot, he would still put on a stern face to help his son grow. He was afraid his son would slack off in his cultivation, because he was too fond of him. That was not something he wanted to see. In this world where the strong were respected, the strong were the ones who ruled. Before he broke through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, he would eventually die of old age. It was impossible for him to protect his son forever. Father, Dong Lin opened his mouth, but was interrupted by Dong Yuanjin before he could finish his words. Are you here to ask me to send someone to teach that Duan Lingtian a lesson? Dong Yuanjin interrupted Dong Lin and asked calmly. His wise eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Yes. Dong Lin gritted his teeth and nodded in the end. As your father, logically speaking, I hope that you can use your own strength to solve this matter. However, I heard that kid called Duan Lingtian is very strange, and you're not a match for him. Based on Dong Yuanjin's words, it was obvious he had heard of Duan Lingtian. Naturally, he did not think much of Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian's strength was comparable to a powerhouse at the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage, and was comparable to a powerhouse at the 3rd form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, as one of the vice hall masters of the enforcement hall of Zoroastrianism, Dong Yuanjin was much stronger than most golden flame elders. He was close to breaking through to the 6th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Chapter 2043. I'm useless. I've embarrassed you, father. Upon hearing Dong Yuanjin's words, Dong Lin lowered his head in shame. However, his eyes gleamed coldly. Naturally, the coldness in his eyes was not directed at his father. It was directed at Duan Lingtian. If it was not for Duan Lingtian, he would not have come to his father to avenge him. If he had not come to his father to avenge him, he would not have heard his father's words that were filled with disappointment. From the beginning until the end, Dong Lin resented Duan Lingtian. He did not expect it was all because he was useless. Moreover, he was not the one who provoked Duan Lingtian first. If he had a backbone, he could have relied on his own efforts to cultivate and seek revenge. Why would he come to his father for help? Your innate spiritual root is the same as his. Both of you have a blue innate spiritual root. I hope you'll be able to defeat him with your own strength one day instead of coming to me to teach him a lesson. Dong Yuanjin looked at Dong Lin solemnly and said, As for this time, I'll ask Elder Yang to speak to Tiandong. You can look for Tiandong tomorrow. Elder Tiandong. Upon hearing Dong Yuanjin's words, Dong Lin's eyes lit up immediately. An excited expression could be seen on his face. Tiandong was the first Silver Flame Elder of the Enforcement Hall. He had received his father's favor in the past, and was considered one of his subordinates. How could Dong Lin not be excited when he heard his father was going to ask Tiandong to teach Duan Lingtian a lesson? When Dong Yuanjin saw that Dong Lin was so excited after hearing his words, a hint of disappointment appeared in his eyes. He shook his head, turned around, and left the backyard to return to his residence. Although he was disappointed, there was nothing he could do. After all, Dong Lin was his only son. He was everything to him. Regardless of whether his son was useful or not, Dong Lin was his lifeblood and everything to him. Naturally, he could not stand it when someone bullied his son. Although Duan Lingtian had bullied his son, he did not cross the line. Due to this reason, it was inconvenient for him to make a move. Farewell, father. At the same time, Dong Lin regained his senses and said respectfully as he watched Dong Yuanjin leave. Elder Yang, I'll go back first. I'll look for Elder Tiandong tomorrow. You must remember to look for Elder Tiandong today. Before leaving, Dong Lin looked at Elder Yang and reminded him. I'll go now. It wasn't until he saw Old Man Yang rising into the air that Dong Lin left in satisfaction. Looking at Dong Lin's back, Elder Yang let out a long sigh and muttered, "It's no wonder that Master is disappointed with the young master." Duan Lingtian was naturally unaware that Dong Lin had gone to look for his father, the Vice Hall Master of the Enforcement Hall, Dong Yuanjin, to stand up for him. Right now, Duan Lingtian was seriously cultivating on the 4th floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. His next goal was to break through to the Intermediate Exemplary Saint stage. In that case, he would be able to defeat ordinary powerhouses at the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage, even without using the Jasper Celestial Sword. Naturally, he would only be able to defeat ordinary powerhouses at the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even if he had broken through to the Intermediate Exemplary Saint stage, he would still be no match for powerhouses at the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage, like Wen Yen, if he did not use the Jasper Celestial Sword. He would not be able to defeat powerhouses at the same level as Gan Ru Yen. In terms of strength, powerhouses at the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage were divided. For example, Gan Ru Yen could barely be ranked on the Supreme Saint ranking in the Dao Martial Saint land. On the other hand, powerhouses like Wen Yen and Lu Yun were not even qualified to be ranked on the Supreme Saint ranking. If I break through to the Intermediate Exemplary Saint stage, I should be able to defeat senior brother Lu Yun without using the Jasper Celestial Sword. If I break through to the Mastery Exemplary Saint stage, I should be able to defeat Wen Yen without using the Jasper Celestial Sword. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. As for Ker's sister, Gan Ru Yen, who's a powerhouse at the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage, I'm afraid I'll have to break through to the peak of the Exemplary Saint stage to defeat her, without using the Jasper Celestial Sword. Duan Lingtian had not wasted his time in the Saint land of Zoroastrianism. He now had a clear understanding of the strength levels of powerhouses at the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage. Gan Ru Yen isn't even at the peak of the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage. I'll have to break through to the Intermediate Quintessential Saint stage if I want to defeat a powerhouse at the peak of the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage without using the Jasper Celestial Sword. Duan Lingtian was well aware of this as well. Although the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage was just a cultivation base, there was a huge difference between those at the peak of the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage and those who had just broken through to the 2nd form of the Saint Celestial stage. The gap between each of the 9 forms of the Saint Celestial stage was huge. It was comparable to the gap between the Exemplary Saint stage and the Quintessential Saint stage, and the Divine Saint stage, and the Exemplary Saint stage. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian's cultivation speed was insane. He knew he had to raise his cultivation base as soon as possible if he wanted to rescue Ker and their daughter. He wanted to be strong enough to rescue Ker and their daughter before the sect leader of Zoroastrianism came out of closed-door cultivation. Otherwise, who knew what would happen after the sect leader of Zoroastrianism came out of closed-door cultivation? Duan Lingtian did not want any unforeseen circumstances to happen. The night passed by quickly. To Duan Lingtian, one night in the outside world was equivalent to 5 days in the 4th level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Due to this reason, he also cultivated properly. His cultivation base was getting closer and closer to the intermediate exemplary saint stage. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to leave his residence in the main hall of the enforcement hall and head to the patrol post on the west side of the enforcement hall, a voice rang out. In a mysterious, eerie, and strange place, Zhu Luqi cut a sorry figure. That was right. Zhu Luqi was the former palace master of Heaven Palace in the Debussy subterranean quasi-third-rate force, the mystical Sky Mansion. Due to the fact that he had cultivated the devouring dark devil technique, he was no longer tolerated by the people in the Debussy subterranean. However, he had followed Duan Lingtian to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land and joined one of the 3 great sects, Zoroastrianism. He had even joined the White Tiger Sanctum, one of the 4 symbols sanctums of Zoroastrianism. Before Duan Lingtian entered the Zoroastrianism Saint Land, he had asked the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder, Guoxiong, to help him send Zhu Luqi to the inter-province transportation formation in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, so that he could send Zhu Luqi back to the Debussy subterranean. Duan Lingtian had asked Zhu Luqi to return to the Debussy subterranean because he wanted Zhu Luqi to inform the Azure Cloud Mansion. After all, he had offended Lien in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land because of Zoroastrianism. Moreover, he had formed a feud with Yang Chong, the 5th elder of the Northern Plethora sect, a first-rate force in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Now that he had exposed his identity as a 9-clawed dragon warrior, Lien and Yang Chong would most likely guess that he was from the lower province. If Lien or Yang Chong sent someone to the lower province to investigate, they would be able to find out about his background in just a short time. This was because although not everyone in the lower province knew about his name, Duan Lingtian, in the Debussy subterranean, there were many people who knew about it. Whether it was Lien or Yang Chong, as long as they sent someone to the lower province, they would definitely find out he was from the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion. At that time, the Azure Cloud Mansion would definitely be annihilated. Under such circumstances, Duan Lingtian chose to send Zhu Luqi back to the Azure Cloud Mansion in the Debussy subterranean, first to report the matter. Duan Lingtian believed that as long as his father, Duan Rufeng, received the news in advance, he would definitely be able to arrange everything in a short time and successfully avoid the annihilation. However, Duan Lingtian did not expect this at all. After Zhu Luqi entered the inter-province transportation formation, something unexpected happened. He was not sent to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Instead, he was sent to a mysterious, eerie, and strange place. This place was filled with a grayish haze. The sky here was dark. There was no distinction between day and night. Recently, Zhu Luqi had already gotten used to this. What's this place? It doesn't seem like the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, nor the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Zhu Luqi raised his head to look at the sky. A blood-red moon hung in the sky as though it was dyed in blood. It was extremely eerie and strange. It was the moon that lit up the dark sky. The heaven and earth spirit energy here is even worse than the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Moreover, I feel like I've been walking around here for a few months, but I haven't seen a single living person at all. Let alone a human. I haven't even seen a single beast. Walking in the barren forest in a daze, Zhu Luqi felt extremely depressed as he walked past the withered trees. He felt like he was going crazy, since there was no distinction between day and night here. He did not know how long he had been here. However, it felt like a long time had passed. It felt like a few months. Naturally, the truth was that Zhu Luqi had not been here for that long. It was just that the atmosphere here was too eerie and strange. Moreover, he could not see any living things. As time passed, He began to feel extremely frustrated. He felt like he had been here for a long time. Zhu Luqi felt disgusted by this place from the bottom of his heart. However, he did not know how to get back. What's going on with the inter-province transportation formation? Why did I end up in such a godforsaken place? What's this place? Zhu Luqi was extremely frustrated. He was on the verge of breaking down. However, when he was on the verge of breaking down, he calmed down a little and carefully observed his surroundings. In the end, he realized he seemed to be walking in the same spot all the way. The scenery he experienced kept repeating. It was as though he was trapped in a dead end. Illusory formation? At this moment, Zhu Luqi's heart jolted. At the same time, he came to a halt and did not continue to move forward. This was because he realized it would be useless even if he continued to move forward. In the end, he was still walking in the same spot. This fellow seems to have noticed me. Chapter 2044. As soon as the voice rang in the air, two monsters with the heads of cows and the bodies of humans, shrouded in black mist, appeared in front of Zhu Luqi. Zhu Luqi also discovered that he was in a different place. Apart from the dark sky and the blood-red moon, the withered trees and the barren forest had disappeared. He was now in a barren valley. The two monsters standing in the air in front of him were staring at him with their blood-red eyes that were as big as gongs. Who are you? Zhu Luqi felt his scalp tingle as he looked at the two monsters in front of him. Both of them were extremely dangerous. Moreover, the devil chi they emitted was even purer and more exaggerated than a devil cultivator like him. Human. Upon hearing Zhu Luqi's words, the two monsters looked at each other and saw shock in each other's eyes. He said human? One of the monsters asked excitedly. Yes. The other monster was excited as well. When I used the seduction technique earlier, I noticed the devil chi in his body was not pure. As it turns out, he's a human. Why would a human appear in the exiled realm? Could it be that he's from the Saint Province realm? According to the ancient legends, apart from the Devata realms and the mundane realms, only the Saint Province realm, which is adjacent to the exiled realm, has humans in the mundane realm. However, isn't there a spatial barrier between the exiled realm and the Saint Province realm? Haven't we, the powerhouses of the exiled plane, dreamt of breaking that barrier for hundreds of thousands of years, but we've never succeeded? Could it be that this human discovered the spatial barrier and came here from the Saint Province realm? The two monsters with the heads of cows and the bodies of humans discussed as though there was no one else around. When their words entered Zhu Luqi's ears, he was confused. He had heard of the Devata realms and the mundane realms. However, he had never heard of the exiled realm or the Saint Province realm. Of course, he also vaguely realized the Saint Province realm mentioned by the two cow-headed men was the Dao Martial Saint land, where he was originally from. However, he had never heard of the exiled realm when he was in the Dao Martial Saint land. You're not human? Then what exactly are you? Taking a deep breath, Zhu Luqi mustered up his courage and asked. He was too curious about the identity of the two monsters in front of him. Judging by their tone, they were not humans at all. Besides, Zhu Luqi did not think they were saint beasts. Generally speaking, saint beasts would either be in their beast form or human form. They would never appear in such a strange form. This was the first time he had seen such a monster with the head of a cow and the body of a human. Not only was this the first time he had seen one, he had never even heard of such a monster that was neither human nor beast. He asked what we are. The two monsters began to talk again. Has he never heard of devils? I think he hasn't. Otherwise, he would have recognized us as devils. He can't even recognize us as devils. Does this mean he won't be able to recognize us as members of the Ox Devil clan? That's for sure. The conversation between the two monsters with the head of a cow and the body of a human entered Zhu Luqi's ears. Horror dawned on Zhu Luqi immediately. Devils? You're devils? When Zhu Luqi looked at the two monsters again, it was as though he had just seen a ghost. He exclaimed, If both of you are devils, don't tell me this is the land of exile, the homeland of the legendary devils in our Dao Martial Saint land? Zhu Luqi had learned about the land of exile when he was in the White Tiger sanctum of Zoroastrianism. Other than cultivating, he also liked to flip through all kinds of ancient books and records. When he was in the White Tiger sanctum, he had read a very ancient book that introduced the land of exile. According to legend, a long time ago, there was a great human-devil war in the Dao Martial Saint Land. It was said that during that era, a group of devils came from a place that the people of the Dao Martial Saint Land had never heard of before, and invaded the Dao Martial Saint Land. That era was also known as the Human Devil Era, and the place where those demons came from was also known as the Land of Exile. During the Human Devil Era, the Great Human Devil War had almost turned the world upside down. Although the humans managed to defeat the devils in the end, it also caused a great reshuffle in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Many powerful forces disappeared and ceased to exist. It was also at that time that the three great sects were born. Devil cultivators began to appear at that time as well. Devil cultivators were human martial and Dao cultivators, who had mastered some of the devil clan's cultivation techniques. As time went by, the devils returned to the land of exile, and no longer showed themselves. The peaceful days caused the people of the Dao Martial Saint Land to gradually forget about the devils who had invaded their homeland. In the end, the Dao Martial Saint Land was divided into two, the Upper Province and the Upper Province. At that time, everything about the land of exile and the devils was gradually forgotten by the people of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It was only recorded in words that existed in the three great sections. Legend has it that the reason the devils were able to invade the Dao Martial Saint Land from the land of exile was because they had spent 1,000,000 years to set up an earth-shattering devil formation that broke the space barrier between the land of exile and the Dao Martial Saint Land. Zhu Luqi recalled the words he had read in the book. In the end, the Great Human Devil War broke out. The devils were defeated and were chased back to the land of exile. At that time, the powerful figures among the humans had set up a grand sealing formation to forcefully seal the gap in the space barrier. If the devils wanted to make a comeback, they would have to spend at least a few 100,000 years, or even a few million years, before they could break the space barrier again. However, it has only been a few 100,000 years since the Human Devil Era. Does this mean that I was sent to the land of exile by a faulty interdomain teleportation formation? Zhu Luqi's expression turned grave when he thought about this. Not even in his wildest dreams did he think he would be so unlucky one day. The land of exile was not a good place for him. Dao Martial Saint Land? The two minotaurs heard Zhu Luqi's exclamation and turned to look at Zhu Luqi. Legend has it that the Dao Martial Saint Land is the main continent of the Saint Province realm. It seems like he's really from the Saint Province realm. Let's bring him back to our clan. Perhaps we'll be able to find a passage to the Saint Province realm through him. Legend has it that the Saint Province realm is very rich. Not only is the cultivation environment 100 or 1,000 times better than the land of exile, but it's also filled with countless saint stones and mineral resources. At this point, the two monsters' eyes lit up as they looked at Zhu Luqi. As soon as the two minotaurs finished speaking, Zhu Luqi made his move, intending to escape. However, before he could take more than a few steps, one of the minotaurs caught up to him and grabbed him like an eagle catching a chick. Their strength was not on the same level at all. Both of the minotaurs were 3 meters tall. One of the minotaurs carried Zhu Luqi, as though he was carrying a very light item. Let's go. Bring him back to the clan. Then the two minotaurs carried Zhu Luqi away. Based on their conversation, it was clear they were members of the Ox Devil clan in the Devil clans. They were two Ox Devils. Duan Lingtian, I'm afraid I won't be able to help you inform your clan anymore. When Zhu Luqi was captured by the two Ox Devils, he was already prepared to die. He felt helpless when he thought about Duan Lingtian's request. At this moment, he could only hope that Duan Lingtian would go to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land to warn his clan. Naturally, he knew it was impossible. As the saying went, there are always exceptions. While Zhu Luqi was being brought back to the Ox Devil clan by the two Ox Devils, Lian, the first Silver Flame Elder of the Black Turtle Sanctum, one of the four symbols sanctums of Zoroastrianism, had arrived at the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land with the people. Yang Chong, the fifth elder of the northern plethora sect, had arranged for him. Greetings, lords. The watchers from the Dao Martial Saint Land quickly bowed respectfully when they saw Lian and the others, who were charging at them menacingly. He was only an early quintessential saint stage martial cultivator. However, even the weakest person in this group of people was at the saint celestial stage, or above. As someone who came from a first-rate force in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, and had seen much of the world, he could sense this. Have you seen this person before? Lian raised his hand and opened a portrait. It was a handsome young man in the portrait. The portrait showed Duan Ling Tian's appearance after he had disguised himself. It was also his appearance when he was in the fire worship sect. It's very likely that he's from the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. If he's from the lower province, you must have seen him before. Do you find him familiar? Lian asked in a deep voice. His aura surged out and pressed down on the watcher of the Debussy subterranean. The watcher's face turned pale. However, he shook his head in the end. I've never seen him before. And what he said was indeed the truth. He's called Duan Ling Tian. Are you sure you've never seen him before? Lian asked again. Duan Ling Tian? Chapter 2045. What? You know about the Duan Ling Tian? Although the surprise in the Debussy subterranean watcher's eyes only flashed for a moment, it was still noticed by Lian, who was observant. When he spoke again, a powerful aura surged out of Lian's body again and pressed down on the watcher. The moment the watcher's face turned pale, Lian's spiritual energy had already extended out and entered the watcher's mind domineeringly. He cast the soul-searching secret tactic. The moment the soul-searching secret tactic was cast, it directly controlled the watcher's mind. You know the Duan Ling Tian? Lian asked in a deep voice after he controlled the watcher. Yes. The watcher, whose eyes were blank and had a blank expression on his face, nodded immediately when he heard Lian's question. His expression was dull, as though he had lost his soul. When Lian heard the watcher's words, his eyes lit up immediately. However, his expression turned grave at the same time. Then why did you say you've never seen the person in the portrait when I asked you if you've seen him before? I've never seen the person in the portrait before. The watcher replied. The Duan Ling Tian you know doesn't look like that? When Lian heard the watcher's words, he could not help but frown. Could it be that the Duan Ling Tian the watcher knew was not the same person as the Duan Ling Tian who practiced Zoroastrianism? Lian was certain that the Duan Ling Tian who practiced Zoroastrianism did not have any signs of disguise on his face. He was also certain that the watcher before him had already cast the soul-searching secret tactic on him. It was impossible for him to lie to him. He doesn't look like that. When the watcher heard Lian's question, he continued to reply dully. He said bluntly that the Duan Ling Tian he knew was not the person in the portrait in Lian's hand. Tell me about the Duan Ling Tian you know. Tell me everything you know. Don't hide anything from me. Lian asked further. Although Lian was almost certain that the Duan Ling Tian he was looking for was not the same person as the Duan Ling Tian mentioned by the watcher, he could not help but want to confirm it further. Logically speaking, a name like Duan Ling Tian was not common. Most importantly, since the watcher knew the Duan Ling Tian, it meant that the Duan Ling Tian he mentioned was not an ordinary person in the Debussy subterranean. And the Duan Ling Tian of Zoroastrianism was no ordinary person. Lian subconsciously felt that it couldn't be so coincidental. They're both called Duan Ling Tian. And they're both so extraordinary. It was because of this that he continued to question the person in front of him. Currently, the watcher in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was affected by Lian's soul-searching secret tactic. Naturally, he would tell Lian everything he knew. Following that, he began to recount everything about Duan Ling Tian in his memory in full detail. From the Guardian, Lian learned that the Duan Ling Tian of the Debussy subterranean was a peerless genius. Naturally, the peerless genius referred to the peerless genius of the Debussy subterranean. In the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, Only those with violet innate spiritual roots were qualified to be called peerless geniuses. Not long ago, he went from the lower province to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, through the inter-province transportation formation. Li An's eyes lit up when he heard that the Duan Lingtian of the Debussy Subterranean had gone to the upper province not long ago. He knows a mysterious disguising secret tactic. Ordinary people won't be able to see through his disguise, even if they use their divine consciousness or spiritual energy. When Lian learned about this from the Watcher, he was certain of it. The Duan Lingtian the Watcher mentioned was none other than the Duan Lingtian, who had offended him during the Zoroastrianism. However, the Duan Lingtian of the Zoroastrianism had used the disguising secret tactic to disguise himself. Due to the unique disguising secret tactic that Duan Lingtian had mastered, even he could not see through the Duan Lingtian's disguise. Duan Lingtian is the young mansion master of the Azure Cloud Mansion, a quasi-third-rate force in the Debussy Subterranean. Li An's eyes gleamed coldly when he confirmed the two Duan Lingtian were the same person. Does this mean his family is in the Azure Cloud Mansion? Where's the Azure Cloud Mansion? Lian asked in a slightly anxious tone as he looked at the Watcher. After Lian obtained the answer from the Watcher, he immediately soared into the sky and flew toward the Azure Cloud Mansion at lightning speed. The group of Saint Celestial stage powerhouses sent by Yang Chong, the fifth elder of the Northern Plethora sect, to follow Lian also soared into the sky and followed him. The group of people made their way to the Azure Cloud Mansion in a mighty manner. At this moment, the Azure Cloud Mansion was quiet. The people inside were completely unaware that a bloody storm was about to befall them. A huge crisis was about to engulf the Azure Cloud Mansion, a third-rate force in the Debussy Subterranean. Duan Lingtian, who was in the Zoroastrianism in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, was completely unaware of this. He thought his father, Duan Rufeng, would immediately bring his family and friends away from the Azure Cloud Mansion and hide since Zhu Luqi had informed him. However, it did not cross his mind that Duan Lingtian would be teleported to the Azure Cloud Mansion. When Zhu Luqi was using the inter-province transportation formation, he was accidentally sent to the Land of Exile, where the devils were gathered. The Land of Exile was a realm that was adjacent to the Dao Martial Saint Land and the three great mortal realms. Both realms belonged to the same mundane realm. Naturally, the Dao Martial Saint Land referred to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. As for the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, it was a pseudo-realm that included the Dao Martial Saint Land and the three great mortal realms. Due to the fact that Zhu Luqi was sent to the Land of Exile, Duan Rufeng and the others who were in the Azure Cloud Mansion did not receive any news at all. They were completely unaware that a huge crisis was about to befall them. It's really boring to patrol the enforcement hall. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was on patrol duty in the enforcement hall. For the next month, he would be patrolling the enforcement hall's area. All of a sudden, Duan Lingtian, who was patrolling, seemed to have noticed something as he looked in the direction of the enforcement hall's main palace. Whoosh! Whoosh! Almost as soon as Duan Lingtian looked over, two figures shot over and appeared near him in just a blink of an eye. Dong Lin. When the two figures came to a halt, Duan Lingtian immediately recognized one of them. It was Dong Lin, who had made things difficult for him in the Fire Remuneration Palace. He was also the only son of Dong Yuanjin, the Vice Hall Master of the Enforcement Hall. Apart from Dong Lin, Duan Lingtian did not recognize the other person. He was a middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance and a medium build. He was the type of person who would not stand out in a crowd. Currently, he was looking at Duan Lingtian calmly when he appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian could not tell what his purpose was. It's Elder Dong Lin. My goodness. It's Elder Tian Dong. Why is he here? Almost as soon as Dong Lin and the middle-aged man appeared near Duan Lingtian, the few bronze flame elders who were patrolling the area began to approach as well. As they spoke, their tone was filled with astonishment. Elder Tian Dong? Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow when he heard the bronze flame elder's words. He He was familiar with the name Tiandong. Yesterday, before he cut ties with Lu Yin, he had also heard Lu Yin mention this name. Tiandong was one of the best among the Zoroastrianism Silver Flame Elders. In terms of strength, he could be ranked in the top 3 among the Silver Flame Elders. In the Zoroastrianism's Enforcement Hall, Tiandong was undoubtedly the first Silver Flame Elder. The first Silver Flame Elder of the Enforcement Hall. For this reason, Duanling Tian was slightly surprised when he found out the middle-aged man standing next to Dong Lin was Tiandong. He did not expect Dong Lin to be able to find this Enforcement Hall's elder to help him. To be more precise, he did not expect Dong Lin's father to be so influential to be able to get an Enforcement Hall's elder to help Dong Lin. Before Duanling Tian found out about Tiandong's identity, he had already guessed that the middle-aged man who came with Dong Lin was Dong Lin's helper to deal with him. Everything was going according to his plan. After he arrived at the Enforcement Hall, Dong Lin would definitely find someone to cause trouble for him. Although he might not be able to kill him, or even cripple him, he would definitely torture him. Duanling Tian, we meet again. Dong Lin looked at Duanling Tian with a smug smile on his face. His eyes were burning with fire, as though they could burn everything. At this moment, Dong Lin no longer had the servile attitude he had when he apologized to Duanling Tian earlier. It was as though he was a villain intoxicated by success. The reason he dared to behave in this manner in front of Duanling Tian was naturally because he had Tiandong by his side to help him. With Tiandong around, he could only stand up straight. Otherwise, he would not have dared to be so arrogant in front of Duanling Tian. Yes, we meet again. Facing the smug Dong Lin, Duanling Tian remained calm. He did not show any signs of fear because Dong Lin had Tiandong as his helper. Duanling Tian, do you know why I'm here today? When Dong Lin saw how calm Duanling Tian was, he felt a wave of displeasure. However, he forced a smile on his face and asked, "What's the matter? You must have found a helper to teach me a lesson." Duanling Tian replied nonchalantly. You know, Dong Lin was stunned when he heard Duanling Tian's words. Then he asked, "Since you know, aren't you afraid? Or, don't you know who this person next to me is?" "I know who he is." As soon as Dong Lin finished speaking, Duanling Tian looked at the middle-aged man next to Dong Lin and said nonchalantly, "Duanling Tian, the first Silver Flame Elder of the Enforcement Hall." Duanling Tian's words stunned Dong Lin and the few Bronze Flame Elders who were watching from afar. Chapter 2046. Although Duanling Tian was not as stunned as Dong Lin and the few Bronze Flame Elders, there was a slight change in the way he looked at Duanling Tian. The name Duanling Tian was not unfamiliar to him. He had also heard about the things Duanling Tian had done after he came to Zoroastrianism. Just like most of the Silver Flame Elders of Zoroastrianism, he had the thought of taking Duanling Tian as his direct disciple. However, he later learned that Duanling Tian already had a rogue cultivator as his master, and he had declared that he would not take another person as his master until he received his master's permission. Therefore, he gave up on the idea. This news had been circulating among the higher-ups of Zoroastrianism for a long time, and he was well aware of it. "Duanling Tian, how dare you?" At this moment Dong Lin, who had come to his senses, looked at Duanling Tian and suddenly shouted, "You know Elder Tiandong's honorable status, yet you still dare to call him by his name. Do you know that you are being disrespectful to Elder Tiandong?" Following Dong Lin's shout, Tiandong looked at Duanling Tian with a cold gaze. The temperature of the air around them seemed to have dropped by a few degrees. Of course, the reason why Tiandong had such a huge change in an instant was not because of the great disrespect that Dong Lin had mentioned. He only had one purpose for coming here today: teach Duanling Tian a lesson and vent Dong Lin's anger. When the Bronze Flame Elders saw this, they could not help but feel a chill down their spines. They had long heard of the conflict between Duanling Tian and Dong Lin. Today, when they saw Dong Lin and Duanling Tian together, they knew Dong Lin was here to take revenge on Duanling Tian. His confidence came from Elder Tiandong, the first Silver Flame Elder of the Enforcement Hall. Apart from being the first Elder of the Enforcement Hall, Tiandong was also ranked in the top 3 among the Silver Flame Elders of Zoroastrianism. He was also very famous on the Supreme Saint ranking. He was ranked at the 109th place. Most importantly, as elders of the Enforcement Hall, they had long heard about this. Elder Tiandong was actually a mad dog under the command of Dong Yuanjin, the Vice Hall Master of the Enforcement Hall. He would bite whoever Dong Yuanjin ordered him to bite. It was appropriate to describe him as quiet as a virgin, but when he moved, he was like a mad dog. Duan Ling Tian. As soon as Dong Lin's words left his mouth, Tiandong snorted coldly and took a step forward. A powerful aura surged out of his body and shrouded Duan Ling Tian, as though he was going to crush him. Unfortunately, Duan Ling Tian's aura at the 4th form of the Saint Celestial stage did not affect Duan Ling Tian at all. Duan Ling Tian did not even need to mobilize the Sun Saint origin in his body. He only needed to release the sword force from the Sovereign Heart Sword to break Tiandong's aura apart. Tiandong's aura was no longer a threat to Duan Ling Tian. A hint of surprise could be seen in the depth of Tiandong's eyes when he saw this. Duan Ling Tian does have some tricks up his sleeve. However, since he has offended Lord Vice Hall Master, he'll suffer a fate worse than death today. Dong Lin's eyes gleamed coldly as he thought to himself. The order he received was, find all excuses to teach Duan Ling Tian a lesson, and make Duan Ling Tian suffer a fate worse than death. Ever since I, Tiandong, became the Silver Flame Elder of Zoroastrianism, this is my first time hearing a Zoroastrianism disciple address me by my name. How dare you? Since you don't know your place, I'll have to teach you a lesson on behalf of your wandering cultivator master. As Tiandong spoke, he stepped toward Duan Ling Tian. In the eyes of the Bronze Flame Elders, every step he took was as heavy as 1,000,000 pounds. It was as if a giant hammer was pounding on their chests, causing their hearts to be in their throats. In their opinion, Duan Ling Tian, I'm afraid you're out of luck today. It was obvious that Tiandong was here to stand up for Dong Lin. Now that he had found an excuse, he would definitely take advantage of it until he achieved his goal. Rogue Cultivator Master? Upon hearing Tiandong's words, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be taken aback. Of course, he was only stunned for a moment. The next moment he realized. The Black Turtle Sanctum's Enforcement Elder, Guoxiong, must have spread the news that he had a rogue cultivator master. Otherwise, it was impossible for Tiandong to know that his master was a rogue cultivator. In the entire Zoroastrianism, Duan Ling Tian had only told Guoxiong that his master was a rogue cultivator. He had also told Guoxiong that he would not acknowledge anyone else as his master before he obtained his master's permission. He had told Guoxiong this because Guoxiong wanted to recommend him to the sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum, so that he could become the direct disciple of the sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum. Unfortunately, Duan Ling Tian already had a master. He was the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. Although Duan Ling Tian had not met his master yet, he was very grateful to him. It was all because of the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, that he was able to reach where he was today in such a short time. It was precisely because of this that it was impossible for him to acknowledge another person as his master before obtaining the permission of that master. This is good as well. Since Elder Guoxiong has spread the news, I don't think anyone else would want to be my master. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian did not feel disgusted by the Black Turtle Sanctum's Enforcement Elder Guoxiong for spreading the news. Instead, he felt grateful. Humph. When Duan Ling Tian regained his senses, he looked at Tiandong who was walking toward him. His eyes turned cold immediately as he said coldly, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. You, Tiandong, know better than anyone else why you and Dong Lin have come here together. Since you're here to stand up for Dong Lin, why should I be courteous to you? Perhaps, in the eyes of others, you're the high and mighty first Silver Flame Elder of the Enforcement Hall. However, in the eyes of me, Duan Ling Tian, you're just a lackey. Duan Ling Tian's words were loud and clear. Gasp, gasp, gasp. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, the few Enforcement Hall's Bronze Flame Elders who were watching could not help but gasp in unison. In the next instant, they looked at Duan Lingtian, as though they had seen a ghost. Although most people in the enforcement hall did not know that Tian Dong was Vice Hall Master Dong Yuanjin's lackey, no one dared to reveal this in front of Tian Dong. In this regard, Duan Lingtian was definitely the first person to do so. Duan Lingtian is crazy. Is he seeking death? Perhaps. He thinks Elder Tian Dong won't show him any mercy today. That's why he's going all out. The few bronze flame elders thought to themselves. There was a hint of pity in their eyes when they looked at Duan Lingtian. When Dong Lin heard what Duan Lingtian said to Duan Lingtian, he was stunned. It was apparent he did not expect Duan Lingtian would be so crazy as to speak to Elder Tian Dong in such a manner. Moreover, he even called Elder Tian Dong a lackey. Duan Lingtian, you can't blame anyone else for seeking death. A hint of gloating could be seen in Dong Lin's eyes when he looked at Duan Lingtian. What did you call me? As the person involved, Tian Dong could not help but freeze when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He only regained his senses after a while. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, there was a terrifying gleam in his eyes. Upon hearing Tian Dong's question, the few enforcement hall's bronze flame elders shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian again. They were curious. Did Duan Lingtian have the guts to repeat what he said earlier? In the next moment, they received the answer that they wanted. I said, in my eyes, Duan Lingtian, you Tian Dong, are just a lackey. Do you hear me clearly now? Do I need to repeat myself? Duan Lingtian said coldly. His tone was unbridled. The few enforcement hall's elders who were watching felt their scalps go numb when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian was mad. Duan Lingtian was crazy. You're digging your own grave. The gloating expression in Dong Lin's eyes intensified. You're digging your own grave. Tian Dong, who had made up his mind, suddenly shouted. In the next moment, he moved and charged toward Duan Lingtian like a violent storm. Tian Dong, there's no room for regret now that you've made your move. As soon as Tian Dong moved, Duan Lingtian's voice resonated again. His tone was so cold that it sent chills down one's spine. Tian Dong stopped a few meters away from Duan Lingtian. Regret. Although Tian Dong was furious, he still looked at Duan Lingtian warily. He suppressed the anger in his heart and asked coldly, what do you mean by that? Don't tell me this Duan Lingtian has something to rely on? At the same time, the few enforcement hall's bronze flame elders who were watching thought to themselves. Elder Tian Dong, don't believe him. He likes to be mysterious. Let's make our move. Teach him a good lesson. Dong Lin, who was standing nearby, said in a timely manner. Ha 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 ha. As soon as Dong Lin's words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed coldly. Just when he was about to make his move again, Duan Lingtian suddenly burst out laughing. His unbridled laughter spread out, and the sound waves spread out, shaking the surrounding air to the point that clear ripples appeared in the surrounding air. While everyone was still in a daze, Duan Lingtian suddenly stopped laughing. The laughter was like a shower. It came and went as quickly as it came. Tian Dong. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian looked at Tian Dong coldly. You better think this through. If you make your move on me, you'll torture me until I'm dead or crippled. You'll make my life a living hell. However, if you really dare to make a move on me, I, Duan Lingtian, swear that no matter how you treat me, I'll return everything to Dong Lin. Chapter 2047. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed coldly when he looked at Dong Lin. Dong Lin shuddered involuntarily, as though he had fallen into an ice cave. At the same time, horror dawned on Dong Lin's face. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would dare to threaten the first silver flame elder of the enforcement hall, Tian Dong. Duan Lingtian was threatening Dong Lin with him. Dong Lin took a deep breath and looked into Duan Lingtian's eyes. He could see the unshakable determination in Duan Lingtian's eyes. He did not dare to question Duan Lingtian's words at all. At this moment, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. At the same time, he felt a bit of regret. He regretted going to his father and asking him to find someone to stand up for him. Otherwise, he would not be in such a predicament. Swoosh. Tiandong's expression changed drastically when he heard Duan Lingtian's threat. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would dare to threaten him. And Dong Lin in such a manner in front of him. However, he could not ignore Duan Lingtian's threat. As an experienced person, Tiandong could tell that Duan Lingtian was not afraid of Duan Lingtian's threat. Duan Lingtian was absolutely not joking when he said those threatening words earlier. He was serious. If you don't care about Dong Lin, I'll look for the people close to you. It doesn't matter if it's your children or your direct disciples. I'll treat them the same way you treat me today. Duan Lingtian's voice turned colder when he shifted his gaze to Tiandong. Unless you kill me today, I'll be the nightmare of the people close to you in the future. It doesn't matter if it's Dong Lin or the people close to you. You can't possibly stay by their side and protect them forever, right? Duan Lingtian continued to threaten Tiandong. Duan Lingtian's body emitted a cold, killing intent when he finished speaking. It was as though the temperature in the surroundings had dropped. A threat. It was a blatant threat. When Duan Lingtian's words fell into Duan Lingtian's ears, Tiandong's expression changed drastically. His eyes turned red, and his body emitted waves of chilling, murderous intent. It was a murderous intent directed at Duan Lingtian. He did not expect Duan Lingtian to be so unpredictable. Tiandong not only had a son and a daughter, but he also had 2 personal disciples. To him, whether it was his children or his personal disciples, they were all very important. They were people that he needed to protect. Duan Lingtian's actions had hit him right in his weak spot. Duan Lingtian, how dare you threaten Elder Tiandong? Isn't this too valiant? As expected of someone who dares to offend the Black Turtle Sanctum's first silver flame, Elder Lian as soon as he arrived at the Zoroastrianism. I really admire this Duan Lingtian. Me too. The few Enforcement Hall's bronze flame elders were stunned when they saw this scene. When they regained their senses, they could not help but sigh. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian was an exception. How could an ordinary Zoroastrianism disciple dare to threaten Tiandong, the first silver flame elder of the Law Enforcement Hall? Naturally, they also felt Duan Lingtian was very smart. It seemed like he was going to throw away everything. But in truth, he was attacking Duan Lingtian's heart. Based on the changes in Tiandong's expression, and the fact that he did not make a move, they could see that their first silver flame elder was intimidated by Duan Lingtian, and did not dare to make a move on Duan Lingtian. If they were in Duan Lingtian's shoes, they would not dare to make a move on Duan Lingtian as well. Duan Lingtian had a pair of children and 2 personal disciples. Although they were quite strong, they could not be compared to Duan Lingtian at all. What do you think? Duan Lingtian looked at Tiandong and smirked. Are you going to make a move on me? Or are you going to stand aside and be a statue? Anyway, I have nothing to lose. If you dare to make a move on me, I'll make a move on Dong Lin, your children, and your personal disciples. The barefooted are not afraid of those wearing shoes. When the few Enforcement Hall's bronze flame elders heard Duan Lingtian's description of himself, they felt that it was very appropriate. That was right. Currently, was Duan Lingtian not afraid of those who were barefooted? Unless Elder Duan Lingtian dared to kill Duan Lingtian or cripple him, he could definitely take revenge on Elder Duan Lingtian once he recovered. After all, Tiandong was not alone. He had a pair of children and 2 personal disciples. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, was all alone in Zoroastrianism. He had nothing to lose. They could see that this was where Duan Lingtian's confidence came from. Duan Lingtian, don't you think you've crossed the line? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Tiandong's expression darkened. He said coldly, as the saying goes, don't harm your family. Aren't you afraid that people will laugh at you for doing this? Laugh at me? Upon hearing Tiandong's words, Duan Lingtian was stunned for a moment. However, he laughed out loud as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. After a while he stopped laughing. Tiandong, do you think you have the right to say such words in front of me? Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold as he smirked. I, Duan Lingtian, have never seen you before today, and you want to attack me as soon as you appear. Aren't you afraid that people will laugh at you for bullying a true disciple as a silver flame elder of the enforcement hall? Why should I be afraid? That's all I have to say today. Duan Lingtian's tone changed as he said with certainty. Today, unless you kill me or cripple me, even if you only touch a strand of my hair, I'll still look for your children, and look for your direct disciple, so that we can have a good martial Dao spar. A threat. It was another blatant threat. However, no matter how angry Tian Dong was when he was threatened by Duan Lingtian, he was so embarrassed that his face turned red. The killing intent on his body soared to the maximum, but he did not dare to say a word in the end. Be a good statue. When Duan Lingtian saw that Dong Lin was still standing at the same spot, he took a step forward and walked toward him in the air. Bam! Bam! It was unknown if Duan Lingtian did it intentionally, but every time he took a step forward, the air would ripple and explode with a muffled sound. When Dong Lin heard the muffled sounds of air exploding, his expression changed drastically. Every step Duan Lingtian took felt as though he was stepping on his chest, making it difficult for him to breathe. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian was only a few meters away from Dong Lin. Elder Tian Dong. When Dong Lin sensed the hostility from Duan Lingtian and saw the coldness in Duan Lingtian's eyes, his heart skipped a beat. He immediately cried for help from Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! Just as Dong Lin finished speaking, Tian Dong had already appeared in front of Dong Lin like a ghost, shielding Dong Lin behind him. Dong Lin could not help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw Tian Dong. It was as though he had found an indestructible shield. If this had happened in the past, he would have hysterically asked Tian Dong to attack Duan Lingtian to vent his anger. However, when he recalled Duan Lingtian's threat earlier, he swallowed the words that were about to leave his mouth. Now Tian Dong could torture Duan Lingtian and make him wish he was dead. However, after that, Duan Lingtian would blame Tian Dong for everything that Tian Dong had done to him. When Tian Dong thought of this, he was terrified and cowardly. Although he was gnashing his teeth in hatred, he did not urge Tian Dong to attack Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, enough is enough. After Tian Dong stood in front of Dong Lin, he looked coldly at Duan Lingtian and spoke to him in a low voice. Tian Dong. When he saw that Tian Dong was blocking his way, Duan Lingtian's face darkened again. Didn't you hear what I said just now? I asked you to stand aside obediently and be a statue. A statue, do you understand? Duan Lingtian, do you really think that I don't dare to attack you? Tian Dong's expression was extremely gloomy. He could not bear to watch Dong Lin being tortured by Duan Lingtian. Moreover, if Dong Lin was tortured by Duan Lingtian right under his nose, he would not be able to answer to Dong Lin's father, Deputy Hall Leader Dong. Therefore, he finally stood up at this time. Initially, he had come to help Dong Lin bully Duan Lingtian. However, who would have thought that Duan Lingtian would be so shameless? He had actually used Dong Lin, his children, and his direct disciples to threaten him, so that he would not dare to attack him. I knew that you wouldn't dare to attack me. Upon hearing Tian Dong's words, Duan Lingtian smirked disdainfully before he continued to say, Tian Dong, if you don't want me to look for your two daughters and your direct disciples to spar, it's best for you to step aside. After all, there's no enmity between us. I don't want to have an enemy like you for no reason. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, the few enforcement hall's bronze flame elders who were watching were speechless. Was this Duan Lingtian not too shameless? He had used Elder Tian Dong's children and direct disciples to threaten Elder Tian Dong. He had already formed an irreconcilable enmity with Elder Tian Dong. Now, he actually said that there was no enmity between him and Elder Tian Dong, and he did not want to have an enemy like Elder Tian Dong for no reason? Duan Lingtian, don't cross the line. Faced with Duan Lingtian's threat again, Tian Dong was enraged no matter how good he was at suppressing it. His eyes were filled with killing intent, as though he was about to devour someone. Elder Tian Dong, please don't step aside. Otherwise I'll definitely complain to my father that you're helping Duan Lingtian to attack me. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's threat and sensing Tian Dong's exasperation, Dong Lin continued to threaten Tian Dong. At this moment, Dong Lin was truly afraid. He was afraid that Tian Dong would abandon him, just to protect his children and direct disciples, and allow Duan Lingtian to attack him. Chapter 2048. With the threat from Duan Lingtian and the threat from Dong Lin, Tiandong felt like he was going crazy. What sin had he committed in his previous life? How could he have met these two malefactors in his current life? However, Tiandong made up his mind in the end. He looked at Duan Lingtian immediately. Duan Lingtian, you don't want an enemy like me. And I don't want an enemy like you as well. Leave, Tiandong said in a deep voice. Based on his words, it was obvious he had no intention of making a move on Duan Lingtian. Upon hearing Tiandong's words, Dong Lin frowned slightly. However, he quickly relaxed. Perhaps this was the best ending for him. Naturally, he still felt aggrieved in his heart. Tiandong, is there something wrong with your ears? Duan Lingtian's expression darkened as he said coldly. I asked you to leave. Don't tell me you're willing to disregard your children and direct disciples for Dong Lin? Duan Lingtian threatened Tiandong again. I wonder what your children and direct disciples will think if they know you've made such a decision. Elder Tiandong, you should be able to imagine. If my father knows you've joined forces with Duan Lingtian to deal with me, he'll definitely not let you go. Even if it's your children and direct disciples, he won't let you go. While Duan Lingtian was threatening Tiandong, Dong Lin did not forget to threaten Tiandong as well. He was afraid Tiandong would be intimidated by Duan Lingtian and leave him to deal with Duan Lingtian alone. Compared to Duan Lingtian, Tiandong was more afraid of Dong Lin's father, Dong Yuanjin, the vice hall master of the enforcement hall. Therefore, he quickly made up his mind. He looked at Duan Lingtian coldly. Duan Lingtian, I won't touch you today. However, I'll protect Dong Lin as well. Under such circumstances, if you still dare to touch my children and my personal disciple, I, Tiandong, will cripple you even if I have to risk violating the sect's rules and be punished. Tiandong's voice was extremely cold and resolute, leaving no room for negotiation. Really? Duan Lingtian smiled coldly. If I remember correctly, there seems to be a rule in Zoroastrianism that states that if the higher-ups of the law enforcement hall violate the rules, they will receive double the punishment. Even if you didn't kill me and only crippled me, I'm afraid you would still die, right? Just because of the momentary pain of your children and personal disciples, you are willing to give up your life? Do you think I'll believe you? As he spoke, the smile on Duan Lingtian's face deepened. He looked at Tiandong with a gaze full of sarcasm. Tiandong, you better not do anything that you will regret. Duan Lingtian spoke again when Tiandong's expression changed drastically. At the same time, he flew out and headed straight for Tiandong. To be more precise, he was heading straight for Dong Lin. Tiandong was merely an obstacle in his path. When Tiandong saw Duan Lingtian flying toward him, he recalled what Duan Lingtian had said earlier. His expression changed drastically. Nobody knew what was on his mind. Whoosh. However, when Duan Lingtian was about to approach him, he still moved to the side. In the end, he chose to compromise. In his opinion, although Duan Lingtian was not as terrifying as Vice Hall Master Dong, Vice Hall Master Dong would consider his status and might not touch his children and personal disciples. At most, Vice Hall Master Dong would give him a hard time. After all, Dong Lin was only taught a lesson. He was not crippled or killed. This did not cross Vice Hall Master Dong's bottom line. Duan Lingtian was different from Vice Hall Master Dong. Although he was not as terrifying as Vice Hall Master Dong, he had nothing to lose. He had nothing to lose. Even if it was him, he could only avoid facing such a madman. Otherwise, his children, as well as his personal disciples, would definitely be in deep trouble. Hence, at the most critical moment, Tiandong finally changed his choice. Elder Tiandong. When Dong Lin saw that Tiandong had dodged at the most critical moment and exposed himself to Duan Lingtian, his face turned green. He did not expect Tiandong to make such a choice at the most critical moment. Slap. However, the moment Dong Lin's expression changed, a clear and loud slap resounded in the air. Duan Lingtian had appeared in front of Dong Lin and raised his hand to slap him. leaving a clear palm print on his face. The slap had caused half of Dong Lin's face to swell up. "You! How dare you hit me?" Dong Lin was stunned for a moment, before he looked at Duan Lingtian in disbelief. It was as though he had seen a ghost. "That's right, I'm hitting you." Duan Lingtian smirked coldly as he raised his hand, and slapped Dong Lin's face with both hands. Every time Dong Lin made a sound, he would increase his strength. In the end, Dong Lin no longer dared to make a sound. His eyes were red as he endured the slap silently. Slap! 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 Clear and loud slaps resounded in the air. The few bronze flame elders from the enforcement hall, who were watching, felt their scalps go numb. However, none of them dared to step forward to stop it. What a joke! Even the first silver flame elder from the enforcement hall, Tian Dong, did not even dare to make a sound. Put aside the fact that they were not as strong as Duan Lingtian. Even if they were stronger than Duan Lingtian, they would not dare to step forward. Some of them had children, or direct disciples in Zoroastrianism, who knew if Duan Lingtian would find trouble with their children, or direct disciples, after they interfered with Duan Lingtian's matter. Duan Lingtian was not a person who would play by the rules. It was best not to provoke such a person. Crazy, crazy. Tian Dong, who was standing at the side, felt his scalp go numb when he saw Duan Lingtian turning Dong Lin's face into a pig's head in just a blink of an eye. He thought Duan Lingtian was crazy. Who was Dong Lin? He was the only son of Dong Yuanjin, the vice hall master of the enforcement hall. Vice hall master Dong treated his son as his life. If he knew his son was being humiliated, how could he not be angry? Stop! At this moment, even if Tian Dong was afraid Duan Lingtian would make a move on his children and direct disciples, he did not dare to stand at the side and watch the show. He quickly stepped forward to stop Duan Lingtian. At this moment, he was already regretting his actions. Initially, he thought Duan Lingtian would just casually teach Dong Lin a lesson after he stepped aside. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would give Dong Lin a series of slaps as soon as he made his move, turning him into a pig's head. It was one thing to be beaten into a pig's head. The most important thing was the way he was beaten into a pig's head. It was one slap after another. If news of this spread out, how would Dong Lin be able to hold his head high in the enforcement hall in the future? No ordinary person would be able to accept such humiliation. Dong Lin, I've almost forgotten about what happened last time, and I don't intend to make a fuss about it. Today you took the initiative to ask for a beating, so don't blame me. Faced with Tian Dong's stop, Duan Lingtian, who was almost done venting his anger, looked at Dong Lin coldly before he turned around and left in a suave manner. Elder Tian Dong, thank you for your cooperation. Tian Dong, who was originally relieved when he saw Duan Lingtian leaving, was so infuriated that he almost vomited blood when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. This Duan Lingtian did not forget to set him up even when he was leaving. Duan Lingtian, Duan Lingtian, if you don't die, I Dong Lin swear that I'm not human. I swear that I'm not human. Dong Lin's eyes were bloodshot, and his body was trembling with anger. Although his expression could not be seen clearly from his swollen face, it was obvious that he was furious. He was extremely furious. Dong Lin only retracted his gaze when Duan Lingtian's silhouette disappeared from his sight. At the same time, he looked at Tian Dong with a cold gaze and spoke incoherently with his swollen mouth. Tian Dong, this matter, I'll tell everything to Father. You, just you wait. After he finished speaking incoherently, Dong Lin flew away, leaving Tian Dong with a cold and indifferent expression. It's over. Tian Dong's face darkened when he heard Dong Lin's words. He realized that he had made a mistake in his judgment. He did not expect Duan Lingtian to humiliate Dong Lin in such a manner. If he had known earlier, he would not have stepped aside. If news of what happened today were to spread, it would definitely make Dong Lin suffer more than killing him. It was conceivable that once this matter was blown up, based on how much Vice Hall Master Dong doted on Dong Lin, he would not let Duan Lingtian go. He would not let him go as well. The few of you better remember this. If any of you dare to spread what happened earlier, let alone me, even Lord Vice Hall Master will not let any of you go." After taking a deep breath, Tiandong looked at the few law enforcement hall's bronze flame elders and reminded them coldly, "Elder Tiandong, don't worry. I will definitely not spread what happened earlier. Elder Tiandong, don't worry. I didn't see anything earlier. What happened earlier? I was just passing by. Really, I was just passing by." Upon hearing Tiandong's words, the few enforcement hall bronze flame elders hurriedly expressed their opinions. It was as though they were afraid that they would be beaten up if they expressed their opinions any later. At the same time, chills ran down their spines. That Duan Lingtian really doesn't want to live anymore. I've seen people who aren't afraid of death, but I've never seen such a fearless person. That's Dong Lin, not Wen Yen. He's dead meat. He's dead meat. Based on how much Vice Hall Master Dong dotes on Dong Lin, it's impossible for him to let this matter rest. These were the thoughts of the few enforcement hall bronze flame elders. All of them felt that Duan Lingtian was seeking death for humiliating Dong Lin. On the other hand, after Duan Lingtian left, he was elated. He did not feel guilty about what happened today, just like what he had said earlier. If Dong Lin did not come looking for him, he would have long forgotten about the conflict between him and Dong Lin. However, since Dong Lin had come looking for him, he, Duan Lingtian, was not someone to be trifled with. This is strange. Why do I feel a little anxious? Chapter 2049. Palace Master Zhu. Logically speaking, there should be no problem. But why do I feel flustered? I feel like something's going to happen. This was not the first time Duan Lingtian had such a feeling of panic. In the past, he had felt this way as well. Moreover, something would happen every time. Duan Lingtian did not expect Zhu Luqi, who was supposed to head to the Debussy subterranean Azure Cloud Mansion, to inform them would be sent to the land of exile by the Inter-Province Transportation Formation. Due to the fact that Zhu Luqi did not inform the Azure Cloud Mansion in time, the Azure Cloud Mansion did not receive any warning. Currently, Lian was bringing people to the Azure Cloud Mansion. They were getting closer and closer to the Azure Cloud Mansion. However, the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion were unaware of this. Almost at the same time, in the northern region of the Dao Marshal Saint Land, a figure covered in a black robe stood in front of an inter-province transportation formation. There were 3 children who appeared to be 6 or 7 years old lying next to his feet. There were 2 little girls and a little boy. One of the 2 little girls was dressed in a golden robe, while the other was dressed in a white robe. Both of them had baby fat on their cheeks, making them look very cute. As for the little boy, he was dressed in a black robe. Compared to the black robe that covered the entire body of the person standing there, the black robe that the little boy wore did not cover his face. His small head was exposed, and his small face looked cool and cute. If Duan Lingtian was here, he would definitely be able to recognize them with just a glance. At this moment, the 2 little girls and 1 little boy that were lying on the ground and had obviously fainted were none other than the people that the little gold mouse and the 2 little pythons had transformed into in the form of the former little gold mouse. Little gold, little white, and little black. I don't know what the prophet is thinking. He actually asked me to steal these 3 little fellows and throw them back to the lower province of the Dao Marshal Saint Land when that girl, Han Xuanai, is not paying attention. The black-robed man who was dressed in a black robe said. Suddenly, the person shrouded in black robes spoke. When he opened his mouth, it was a very feminine voice. It was neither male nor female, and it was hard to tell whether it was a male or a female. If that girl finds out about this, I'll definitely be in trouble. When the feminine voice reached the end of his sentence, he sounded a little dissatisfied. This black-robed man was none other than the current successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the 4th absolute of the 7 absolutes sect. Yu Wuying. The 3 little fellows who originally followed Han Xuanai to the upper province of the Dao Marshal Saint Land were secretly stolen by him after he knocked them out. The reason he did this was because the Oracle Man, the 2nd absolute of the 7 absolutes sect, the Prophet progeny, had instructed him to do so. He wanted him to find an opportunity where Han Xuanai would not be able to find out and steal the three little fellows before throwing them back to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. According to the Elder of Heavenly Secrets, he could vaguely see through the mysteries of heaven. He could see that there would be a good fortune for the three little fellows in the Debussy subterranean. As for what kind of good fortune it was, he could not tell. Since he was worried that Han Xuanai would stop him, he also asked Yu Wuing to secretly steal the three little fellows and throw them back to the Debussy subterranean. Moreover, he could not send them back to the Greenwave Han Mansion or the Azure Cloud Mansion. Yesterday, Yu Wuing finally found an opportunity and successfully stole the three little fellows. The three of you don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame that old man. He's the one who asked me to steal the three of you and throw you back to the Debussy subterranean to fend for yourselves. Yu Wuing shook his head and lifted the three little fellows up with a raise of his hand. In the next instant, he flew into the inter-province transportation formation. The moment the inter-province transportation formation flashed, Yu Wuing and the three little fellows disappeared. About half an hour later, in the eastern province of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, Yu Wuing, who had just returned from the Debussy subterranean, appeared. After confirming the direction, he returned to the northern province. When Yu Wuing left the upper province, he brought the three little fellows with him. However, when he returned, he was all alone again. The land of exile was also known as the Exiled Realm by the Devil clans. The Ox Devil clan was a big clan in the Exiled Realm. There were many powerhouses in the clan. For many years, they had been trying their best to invade the Saint Province realm, but they could not find an opportunity to do so. The Saint Province realm was the realm that encompassed the Debussy subterranean, the upper province, and the three mortals. The Ox Devil clan's estate was vast. There was a spacious square in the center of the estate. Today, however, the square was filled with people. No, it should be said that it was full of demons, bull demons. The members of the Ox Devil clan had distinctive features. They had a human body and the head of an ox. Apart from their bodies, they were no different from ordinary humans in the Saint Province realm. At this moment, a group of ox devils surrounded the square and stared at a human who was tied up. That was right, a human who was rarely seen in the exiled realm. Is this a human? I think so. This human looks similar to us. He has 2 hands and 2 legs. Similar? How is he similar? We ox devils aren't so short. Moreover, he's so fair. He's so ugly. Look at our dark and healthy skin. This is the skin a warrior should have. That's right. Look at how fair he is. He's a pushover. It's no wonder he was captured by the warriors of the Ox Devil clan. Humans are too weak. It was the first time the members of the Ox Devil clan had seen a human. They pointed at the human who was tied up in the center of the square and discussed among themselves. If it was in the past, Zhu Luqi would never have dreamed that he would one day become an exhibit. Zhu Luqi felt his scalp tingle again when he saw the group of tall monsters with human bodies and cow heads in front of him, because he already knew the identity of these monsters. They were one of the devil clans in the land of exile, the Ox Devil clan. He had read about the Ox Devil clan in the White Tiger Sanctum, one of the fire worship sect's 4 symbol sanctums, the White Tiger Sanctum. The Ox Devil clan was born to be warriors. They were tall and strong, and they were good at close combat. During the Human Devil era, the Ox Devil clan was one of the vanguards in the Great War between the humans and devils. They had killed countless humans in that realm. It could be said that they were the mortal enemies of the human race. Zhu Luqi did not expect he would meet the Ox Devil clan in the Devil clans in such a manner one day. Moreover, he had become a captive of the Ox Devil clan. All of a sudden, Zhu Lu discovered that the group of ox devils, who were surrounding him from the east, had opened up a path for him when they heard a low growl from outside. Then, Zhu Luqi saw the 2 ox devils who had captured him. However, the 2 ox devils were escorting another ox devil the size of a small hill as they walked toward him. Boom! 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 The ox devil was 7 or 8 meters tall. It was 2 or 3 times taller than the average ox devil. Every step it took caused the ground to shake. It walked slowly toward Zhu. The closer it was to Zhu, the more Zhu felt the tremors. When the ox devil appeared, the group of ox devils in the square fell silent. They looked at the ox devil, that was much taller than them, respectfully. As expected, it's a human. The ox devil that was the size of a small hill walked up to Zhu and looked down at him. Its voice was like a clap of thunder, causing Zhu eardrums to hurt. How powerful! At this moment, Zhu could feel the pressure from the ox devil that was standing before him. It was so oppressive that he could barely breathe. Moreover, the ox devil did not deliberately exert pressure on him. Based on this, one could tell how powerful and terrifying the ox devil was. 10th Elder, he's the human we found outside. At the same time, the other two ox devils behind the ox devil spoke in a timely manner. Their voices were filled with humility. 10th Elder, Zhu eyes widened in shock. As far as he knew, the strongest person in the ox devil clan was the patriarch. Below the patriarch were the 10 great elders. In the past, many human powerhouses had died in the hands of the 11 powerhouses from the ox devil clan in the Dao Martial Saint land. Naturally, he knew the 11 powerhouses from the ox devil clan were not the current patriarch and 10 great elders of the ox devil clan. As time passed, the devil clans would die one day as well. Powerful devils who had obtained immortality would ascend to the Devata realms after they had reached a certain level of strength. In this regard, the exiled realm was similar to the Saint Province realm. That's right. All of you have done a great deed. I'll look for Lord Patriarch and ask for a reward for all of you. The ox devil who was addressed as the 10th elder spoke again. His voice was as loud as thunder. Zhu, who was prepared for this, immediately mobilized his saint energy to protect his ears. His eardrums no longer hurt as much as before. While the 10th elder of the ox devil clan was sizing Zhu up with interest, Zhu expression changed drastically. Meanwhile, in the Saint Province realm, the quasi-third-rate force in the Debussy subterranean, the Azure Cloud Mansion, another group of uninvited guests had arrived. This group of uninvited guests had entered the Azure Cloud Mansion and killed all the black armored guards who tried to stop them, whether it was the ordinary black armored guards, the Decurions, or the Centurions. None of them were a match for this group of uninvited guests. It was not just one person, but a group of people led by an old man. Moreover, the uninvited guests were not the old man, but the people behind him. Since the people behind him were so terrifying, one could only imagine how terrifying the old man was. All of you, who are you? The group of black armored guards shuddered in fear when they saw the group of uninvited guests. They kept retreating until they were close to the main mansion of the Azure Cloud Mansion. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, the menacing group of people came to a halt one after another as the old man came to a halt. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.